Live tonight from the virtual Richmond Raceway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to week 2 of the 2021 Real Sim Racing IWRAPS Winter Series, live on RaceSpotTV. And we say good evening and welcome to the broadcast booth from virtual Richmond, Virginia. We're happy to have round 2 of 10 on this Xfinity Series Car Championship, and happy to have you along for the ride with us here tonight. As always, downstairs, our producer Hugo Louise, Dylan Coyle is going to be our in-race reporter once more, so he's in the car. Jonathan Burke and myself, Evan Pasoko, upstairs. And it was a crazy season opener. I think I could even say a messy season opener at Daytona. A lot of big wrecks, a lot of bent-up race cars, and a surprise race win for Dominic Howe in his RSR debut. And Richmond couldn't be any further from Daytona, right? But I feel like we might see some of that same drama tonight. This could very well be a race where drivers look to survive to get to the end, and based on what we've seen in practice, it is not going to be an easy 200 laps either.
What we've seen is it's a little tough out of turns 2 and turn 4, and just getting these cars like around the corners, and especially since it is such a big change. We're going from a 2.5 mile track down to this little 3/4 of a mile racetrack. So it's going to be about surviving, I think, that first 100 laps, just getting a feel for everyone, too. Because restrictor plate racing is a lot different than short track racing.
And getting a feel just because these drivers are still trying to learn each other, right? We talked about this last week in the opener. About 40% of the drivers in this winter series did not race in the Cup Series, so there are some new faces still trying to get gelled in. We're currently in the qualifying session, and the good news is tonight there is no bump. So all drivers who started this, 41 of them, going to make the main field. As we take a look at our winter series schedule, after this evening we'll head to a big 2-mile D-shaped oval in Michigan, and then we'll go road racing at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal on the 14th, Iowa, New Hampshire before the calendar's out, and then we'll go race it on through the end of the year. So it's a fun schedule coming up. There's some similar-ish short tracks on the schedule, smaller tracks like Iowa, short track propers like IRP at Lucas Oil for round number 7. So tonight, I think, going to be a very good indicator, Jonathan, on who's got a real good look at this championship, right? Obviously, all eyes are on Andrew Farinaj, 3-time defending Cup champion, 2-time defending Winter Series champion. Wasn't great in the Daytona opener, but we thought it was going to be a lot worse, right? He was trapped a lap down early in the race, came back for a top 10. He's been P1 in the speed charts through practice all evening long. It looks like it's going to be the Eberhard and Farinaj show, maybe returning once more after they dominated the Cup Series this year. Here's the points, though, into this evening, and again, it's basically just how they finished that opener at Daytona.
Yeah, Dominic Q with that nice surprise win, getting a nice good buff right now, and with such a shorter season compared to the Cup season, wins do mean a lot. You can see it's a 7-point gap just from first to second to Matt Dengson, but you know, and that's what those restrictor plate tracks are really for. They're really for like some of these guys that maybe not be as confident as the short tracks to get some good points up here.
Yeah, Dominic was benefited by 2 bonus points, one for leading a lap and then another one for leading the most laps. So that's going to be a big plus for him. That's how he goes from that 5-point spread from first to second to a 7-point spread into this second race. And let's talk a little bit more about Richmond Raceway. You mentioned a 3/4 of a mile track means that 200 laps and 150 miles on deck for us here this evening. Corners banked at 14 degrees in the turns as we take a live look at the qualifying session now. But we're racing at night as well, so maybe a little bit more grip than if it was a hot sunny afternoon. Track temp is only 86 degrees Fahrenheit, but that does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that these guys have a lot of grip, because being careful into the throttle has been a big story here.
Yeah, it's going to be about like managing how much throttle you're using in and out of the corners, and then I think tires, especially late in the run. I'm thinking maybe only a 1-stop, maybe a 2-stop race we have on our hands here. So managing your tires and managing your consistency, I think, is going to be the most rewarding thing. And then once like the leaders hit traffic, managing traffic, it is a little bit tough to pass here. The run down into 1 is not as long as people need it to be, and the run down into 3 can also be a little tight. So it's definitely going to be a very interesting race that we have in our hands.
We did not see Richmond on this winter series calendar last winter. In fact, it was a calendar that saw a lot more of the bigger racetracks. I know that Iowa was on there, but the last time we went winter series racing at Richmond was in January of 2018. That race was won by Jeff Ward. It only had 2 cautions, but it was a much, much smaller field size than the 41 cars that we see on track right now. Qualifying coming down to a close last week at Daytona. As we take a look with our onboard cameras, we'll be running on board with all of these drivers and check it in with Dylan Coyle as well as the night goes on. But at Daytona, everybody was forced to qualify because there was knockout queue. Because that was not a factor here this evening, some drivers did opt to not take times in qualifying, start towards the back of the pack, and maybe stay out of a little bit of early race chaos. So that's another added element of strategy that's going to be unfolding here in this one. The qualifying session, though, drawing to a close, a small break, and then we will go racing for this feature as we get set for the IWRAPS 200. These drivers have one more opportunity to pound the pavement for a couple of more warm-up laps, and then we will get to it. But qualifying, I don't think any big shocks there. My thing that I'm really going to be looking at is how does the strategy play out? We only have 3 sets of tires available. If this race were to go green, Jonathan, that's not a big issue, right? That kind of fits well within the comfortable window if we're talking green flag pit stops. But if we're getting 20 laps here, 30 laps there, checking up and whatnot, then you get in a position where conserving the set here to use later or vice versa could make a difference. So if we do see a race with a lot of yellows, could kind of take some of those top cars and put them in an uncomfortable position maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be about really, like, I mean, what is everyone else comfortable on the restarts on old tires and stuff like that as well. You can easily spin the tires here. The gear ratios are a lot shorter than they are on the 1.5 miles on old tires. So it's really about how comfortable everyone is going to be running, as we see a little bit of a spinner there out of 4. But you know, managing the tire sets and being smart with when you're coming down pit road and then when you're putting it, you know, in the box as well. Because coming in and out of pit road, you can also have issues under caution. If everyone comes down at once, it might be better to stay out to avoid that trouble.
And maybe a preview of coming events, and while the warm-up session's underway, let's see if we can bug our in-race reporter for the first time this evening. Dylan Coyle is, of course, running the RaceSpot colors tonight and had a real good-looking run last week at Daytona. Dylan, you finished 13th out of 43 cars. Maybe a little bit more nervous about this one, though?
I wouldn't say nervous because I don't expect much from this one, if we're being honest. I'm not nearly as good when you have to use the brake. My driving style or ability or lack thereof, whatever you'd like to say, plays more into, you know, longer speedways. Michigan, I think, will be a lot better for me once we get there in a couple weeks. I'll tell you one thing, though. It's going to be a lot harder for me to speak while we're racing here as I spin out right in front of another driver. It's going to be a lot harder for me to speak while racing because there is the usage of the brakes here. So it's going to be I'm not looking forward to it, but I'm definitely I'm going to be in for a long night, I think.
And this is one that we kind of alluded to where, you know, no quick repairs, so you're going to have to keep the car clean. It may come down to a race where you just want to survive. Does that make it a little bit similar to Daytona in the fact that maybe you're not going to push because you want to keep the car in one piece, or is it just a totally different ball game trying to keep the car in one piece on a short track like this?
It's keeping the car in one piece is going to be really big. Personally, I feel like when you get any amount of damage at a track like this, at a short track, it's a lot more dangerous to your run than at a track like Daytona in a lot of ways. Obviously, you're not going to have the horsepower if you hit something, you know, with your front bumper. The engine gets a little bit damaged. There's not as much airflow. But at a track like this, where fresh tires will come into play so much at different stints of this race. It could be a winning move that we see. It's more about keeping the car clean and conserving those tires. At Daytona, at the super speedways, the tires help, but it's not a huge deal. It's a huge deal. Unless, well, you don't have as much skill to take advantage of the tires as much as you've got it. So excited, looking forward to what comes out of this race. And I believe I'm starting 27th, which is quite the surprise. I thought I would. I didn't have much practice, but I'm happy I'm starting from 27th. And I do believe, yes, the Sheets car is in 35th, Steve Soa. So we're having fun with that. Wawa's better than Sheets. Hashtag that.
It was 1-0 because you finished better than he did in the Daytona opener. So we will be tracking the Sheets versus Wawa battle all season long. But the warm-up session's coming to a close, so we'll let you focus in and get going here. And as this session now advances, let's go racing for the IWRAPS 200. And let's take a look at your RaceSpotTV starting grid for this 150-mile main event. Pole position going to belong to none other than, of course, the driver who has been so good so many times in this series here. That is, I believe, Andrew Friedage at the top of the board in the qualifying session. It is Daniel Eberhardt who will roll from the number 2 spot. There it is on your screen, with Matt Danson starting in 3rd. Braxton DeWeese will roll from the number 4 spot with Liam Sheen in 5th. Sam Nieto 6th with Dane Cruz in 7th. Michael Araya 8th. Marius Lazinski in 9th. And Jared Weinmeister in 10th.
Hey,
David
can I
Washington
just say
is,
something?
I mean, you can. We're going through the starting grid at the moment.
We have unlimited fast repairs, apparently.
That would be a black flag if you take the fast repair.
that I want to take that black flag. Anyway, keep going.
All right, Stefan Aguby in the 09 in 13th, Dominic Hewitt in 14th. So you're getting on through the order. Pace laps are going to be underway. Thomas George in 18th, Kyle Turner in 19th, Brian Clemens in 20th into 25. Nick Silver, Garrett Heese, Nick Murray, and Anthony Fredericks, Detroit Sim Sport down there, saying the times, so they did record times. Almost everyone except 4 cars qualified for the grid.
You got the likes of Brandon Key, Michael Mosier, Dylan Coyle. He mentioned 27th, with Michael Kaczynski rolling from 28th position. Matt Morris, 29th. Ross Cato is 30th. Devin Winfield, Sean Kalis, Stephen Price, Trevin Valderrama, Steve Soa, Joseph Tice. Those are the cars who do take a time in queue. Provisionals to Kyle Kamer, Eric Stanford, Shane Parrish, Steve Durham, and Gary Weaver at the back of the field. Lights out on the pace car. Going to be going green this next time by for round 2 of the Winter Series. As always, our coverage brought to you by IWRAPS. IWRAPS is changing how you find virtual wraps for iRacing. Visit iWraps.shop and enter code RSR20 to receive 20% off your first order. Proud title partner of the 2020 RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series. The pace car going to be down it in this time. The top 2 drivers from the Cup Series this past year arguably going to be side by side on the front row. Eberhardt's got a lot more ground to make up, though, in a poor season opener than the 88 car on the bottom. The field in the hands of Andrew Friedage as we say, let's go racing from Richmond. And lap 1 in favor of the 88 machine early. A lot of side-by-side throughout the field. No shock there, Jonathan. But up front, drivers trying to stretch their legs a little bit. Looks like a challenge for 4th. That's Liam Sheen on the inside of the 3 car.
Yeah, the 88 got a great start in that bottom line. Was able to get a good start going into 1 and 2, but right now it's going to be tough. We already have a caution. Yellow is out. Looks like the number 45
was around. I had noticed that the 45 was having some sort of an issue because he missed the start of this race and actually started from the pit lane, and you'll see it right there. He came back out on track, but he couldn't go anywhere, right? So he was trying to hold it on the apron, and he went up above the yellow, and the number 10 of Steve Durham got into it. You can see right there, pushing up, and there was nothing for Durham to do. He obviously didn't expect that to happen.
No, and I don't know if the 45 machine was yelling over the radio, like, just beware, I'm here, but starting from the pit lane, and now has that rear damage, but now the 10 car has to be worried about that front end damage as well if they want to come down and repair that. Obviously not clicking the fast repairs, as Dylan has pointed out.
And they have been reminded by race control that if they take a quick repair, which they are not supposed to have, that would be an automatic disqualification. And to add on to that, just to help some some group policing or self-policing, you're allowed to tattle on another driver, and if you tattle on somebody, you get bonus points. So that is not a situation there where I want to gamble it, I don't think.
I am going to get 5 bonus points by by snitching. Is that what it is? I don't think
snitches get bonus points. That's the same for this race.
Snitches get stitches in real life, but in iRacing, snitches get bonus points, and I love that.
So that's the situation with the cars having to police themselves. Devin Winfield, by the way, has claimed responsibility for the incident, so he will get an end of the longest line penalty. It's honestly a little bit tricky because if we assume, Jonathan, that this race is going to have a lot of yellows, I believe every time you get service, iRacing is going to auto-check that quick repair thing. So this is the strategy that comes in if you're racing, even where you normally have 1 or 2, right? You want to make sure to not take it, to not burn it. These guys got to make sure that they're on top of those settings every time they pit, because I don't think the penalties are based on if you meant to or not, right? You can't take a quick repair, so even if it's on accident, the penalty would be the same.
Yeah, and it might encourage guys to make sure like all their settings are correct, especially for fuel. I know it's a fixed setup sort of race deal, so everyone's running the same setup, but mainly for fuel, if you want to math it out, have a little bit of a lighter car, or even if you want to take 2 tires instead, that's a risk I don't think anyone's going to be willing to take, but if we do have a lot of yellow and we get to the nitty-gritty at the end of this race, maybe if someone has a set left over, take 2 for the risk. I don't know.
So I will say that reminded me to check and make sure
you're welcome.
That was not checked, because I know that's a discussion right now that there might have. I don't know if there was an accidental fast repair. Uh-oh. I think I'm hearing.
We have our first.
Have we heard a tattle?
I heard somebody tattling. If there are any, it will happen post-race, and they'll be removed from the finish sheet of results, I believe is the way that it'll go down.
Good. So I'll still be able to have the satisfaction of a finish and then disqualification afterwards for being stupid.
Right, when you realize you accidentally. I think they said Eric Stanford did it. Eric Stanford has not been on pit road, so I think they're just trying to get their buddies in trouble.
Love that. Okay, I have no buddies. Actually, my only buddy on track was the one I wrecked last week, and he just wrecked and took responsibility, Devin Winfield. I tried apologizing to him over iRacing's messaging, but I never got a message back. So, yeah.
So you're off his Christmas card list.
Well, yes. that could tie in tonight, guys. Short track, we could see some tempers flare as the night goes on.
I want to be as far away from the tempers as possible.
We'll see how it plays out. Only 8 laps going to be in the books this time by as the pace car is off and in. Freridage in control is gone. Green flag. We're back underway. Here comes Everhart on the inside. He'll take second from Danson.
Yeah, now the 3 car is going to be looking down on the inside as well. Danson could be in trouble. He's got a whole train of cars lined up ready to overtake him.
And if you can't squeeze out that number 3 machine of Braxton DeWeese there, you mentioned it could be rough, but a better pull that time off of turn 4. Danson, for the moment, defends third. DeWeese completed a pass on Liam Sheen off of the restart, and a couple of rows further back, I see 2 cars 3 now stuck up on the outside. That's Michael Arias, number 44 Chevrolet. He's trailed for the 86 Dominic Howe, and you can see how tightly packed in below him all those cars are. And now the 86 caught the fence a little bit that time at a 4, maybe but a 3 wide. It's Washington to the inside of Miller.
And the 98 getting brave. He was thinking about making it 3 wide, trying to gain as much positions as possible. Now this 86 able to gather it back up. You know, as long as you keep it consistent, I think that's the real key thing here. Keep your line consistent, stay smooth, as we see battles going on throughout the field.
There's an onboard look right in on the inside of the racetrack with Matthew Mara, of course, using those VR goggles as he does every single week here in RSR competition. Started 29th, up a couple to 23rd, and in quite the host of 2x2 action. Just ahead of him, it looks like the number 20, Brandon Key, just made a pass on the number 4 of Joe Berge. So that was a pass and a spin in front. Look out, the 00 of Garrett Hess, but he'll save it for the moment after Hess got hit. But the 24 and Nick Silver, great piece of driving to hang on, and it happened right in front of Mara.
You saw the wheel movement right there on the onboard, and I think that's the best thing you can see, you know, as a viewer, just looking at the driver's reactions. It has to be so quick. It has to be, you know, so instant. One wrong reaction could send that car into the fence, and everyone did a fantastic job, and that 00 is still going.
He has stayed in it, kept his foot on the gas, and everybody else was able to avoid. He'll have some rear end damage to boot, but you can see even Nick Silver there on the move. He goes to the outside of the 04 machine of Andy Fredericks, not to be confused with the 4 of Joe Berge up the road. All of this fighting going on just inside of your top 20. Already some 7 seconds off of the battle for the race lead, into which Andrew Ferdinand leads by 9/10 of a second over Daniel Everhart, who maintains the number 3 spots. There's a couple of drivers who have had issues tonight. We saw the incident with Devin Winfield. He's had to park his car. He said that he was having some frame rate issues that took him out of the race. I know that Tom Morano, James Ross were able to make it in time for the start of this race. And you want to talk about bad luck as we get a look on board with Kyle Kamer there running 35th in his SK Sim Racing entry. John Fowler will be out for at least half the season because he broke his foot, and it was his throttle foot. So he has let the team know that he is going to be out for several weeks while that heals. So I know John's tuning in, and hopefully that heals up on your butt and you can get back to the racetrack pretty quickly. But a whole host of issues with drivers either not able to race or having issues once they've gotten here, but working into a nice little run now, working lap number 19 soon.
And no one's having any real driving issues, at least right now, besides that one little caution and the 00 save. It's been pretty smooth, pretty single file throughout the field as well, apart from that, a few of these midfield battles. Just look at the 22 diving down the inside of the 54 right here. It is hard to pass here because it's not that high of banking when you get that huge run off the corner of 4 and 2, but also because you're on that inside, you kind of lose that huge gain you get by going out to the wall. So it takes a lap or two to get around some guys.
Here's an onboard look now with Gary Weaver as he rides in the number 28 spot. That 79 up the road is our in-race reporter, Dylan Coyle. Gary Weaver looking to go to the inside. And this is a tricky part as well. The preferred line into 1 is right up there against the wall, and you saw what Weaver did. If you're taking the correct line into the corner, that bottom is so wide open, it's just begging somebody to dive bomb you, and I think that Dylan saw that coming. Weaver to the bottom, should clear this time in 4. That'll be a swap for positions 27 and 28 for the moment, but tons of side-by-side up the road from them. And now here's the crossover, the 79 going to try to fight back.
Yeah, but unable to do it, doesn't want to risk it right now, risk getting into Weaver. And Weaver's been on the move. We mentioned he started at the rear of the field. He's working at 27. Oh, Dylan getting a little bit too deep into that corner, having to check up. The guys have to check up behind him. It's 3 or 4 wide. Weaver's into the wall a little bit. This is great stuff right now.
Good battling all throughout the field. You don't have to just watch the top 1, 2, 3 to get good action. There's a lot of battling all throughout, and there's the onboard look with the 79. You see all that wheel movement. Again, we talked about how these cars are loose. You want to make sure that you keep it underneath you, so that constant little bit of a seesaw, it just helps you feel where the car is on track when you can't feel it underneath you. It's also very helpful in this case, for somebody to kind of listen for the tire squeal. To kind of look for visuals to see if your front end's a little bit pointed to the inside, if you have that oversteer. And I'm sure it doesn't help, when you have the lack of feeling of the race car underneath you, Jonathan, like you do in a real car, right? You have to rely on those visuals and the audio cues. Probably doesn't help Dylan that he has us in his ear the entire time either.
I love it.
But aside from that, those are what you have to do. It's one of the tricky parts of sim racing.
Yeah, you're just going to have to learn, little things right here. As you said, the pass for second right there. Beautiful move by the 90 machine of Daniel Earhart, just diving down into one, but the 05 looking to come back at him. But, yeah, you got to really learn how to, listen for the tire squeal, feeling the wheel. If you have a force feedback wheel, that's great. And if you have, any sort of feedback, that's great. But you still need to learn, the little visual cues and the little things can make a huge difference and improve you by seconds.
25 laps in, you're looking at that 90 machine of Eberhard. He has been pretty safely in the number 2 spot for the entirety of this race. But Matt Danson on the move. Had to fight off a challenge for third on the restart. And the gap between second and third right now at about 4 to 10 tenths. Bridage is about a second and a half up the road. There he is in the all-white Chevy Camaro. 1, 2, 3, pulling away. And I think once you get back to fourth, where Sam Nieto is, fifth, where Liam Sheen is, that's where you don't see these big gaps. But definitely these top 3 separating themselves as the class of the field as we pick up the battle with the 3 car. That's Braxton DeWeese, 7th, and the 44 of Michael Laraya trying to make the move.
Yeah, Laraya looking inside and outside. The 44 looks like it's been fast in these early runs and had positions to go. As you see the 98 right behind as well, getting a little bit racy. There's a few guys right in this field that are really comfortable right now with passing on the low line and are not afraid to take any risk. And I think a lot of people are going to make note of that for later when it comes down to crunch time. Who's going to be the real aggressive people out here?
And it is a long race, right? 20 some odd laps since the last restart. Tires going to start to get worse. I don't really think anybody came down to the pit lane to use up a set of tires on that early yellow. So that's not a concern quite yet. On board with Steve Durham. He fights 36th position right now to the inside of Michael Mosier for that spot. I don't think the 54 made a start in the season opener, so starting from behind as far as the points battle. And Durham got a little bit loose that time at a 4. The 54, though, opting not to drive it back in on his outside. It gives him the spot. Durham up 5 from the start of this race.
As there's been several guys that have been hard chargers right now through this field, and I can't wait until we get towards the end of the run and we see the tires starting to degrade.
Going to be a factor. Check out the 8 car now, down to the bottom of the racetrack. This is Kyle Kamer in 31st, trying to get a spot from Hess, and the 00 just knocked the fence down at a turn number 2, way too wide, trying to yield to the inside line. He'll lose 4 spots total from that. Kamer gets a spot, so does Stephen Price, Steve Soa, and Brian Chambliss. So a host of cars drive through.
Yeah, you have to be, you got to be careful. And unfortunately, that 00 already has some damage on the rear, so it might not already be the best handling race car. So it's going to be a little bit tough now as you see, oof, that was a dicey move up ahead and right in front of Dylan Coyle. The green car looks like the 39 going down to the inside. Several drivers running wide. The 22 has been a hard charger as well. Almost 3 wide. The 8 looks to the inside. Here comes the 32. It's close and tight back here. But the problem is, the more and more these guys race, the faster the leader's going to come up on them.
Yeah, you don't help yourself out, right, when you put up a fight like that because you're just slowing yourself down. And that was Nick Mara in the 32 who was making those dives, not to be confused with Matthew Mara. And you guessed it, Mara Motorsports, the 2 brothers driving in this series. I know that Matt made his debut for the Cup Series, Nick making his RSR debut for this IWRAPS Winter Series. Oh, and there's going to be trouble behind. Steven Price is into the outside wall. A spin in turn number 1, and the second caution of the afternoon will slow things down at lap number 35.
Yeah, so I was involved there. I think I got squeezed.
We noted.
High. I'm not sure. Did I get squeezed?
Evan, you want to make that? You can make the first comment. I need another view of this again, if I'm honest.
We got one angle from above. Let's see, because it was Price trying to clear on the bottom. Not entirely clear when the contact happens. And let's say, here we go. Hugo's got us a slow motion replay, so let's check this out. It looks like it might have been a little bit of both, because it looked like that the 22 is trying to get high to follow the 32 up the road to arc into the corner, and maybe it came off the fence a little bit by the start-finish line.
Yeah, there was a moment, I think, where the 22 thought it was, oh, well, that angle does not look good either. It's hard to tell. I think you both just kind of moved into each other, and nowhere for the 25 or the 00 to go. That's unfortunate for both of those two, and the 00's already had a few incidents today.
Yeah, the 00 had nowhere to go. He drove into it. Chambliss slowed down a little bit, but Durham got into the back of him. The lucky cars there were Steve Soa and Kyle Kamer, who were right where the incident happened and found a spot. Here's the onboard with Garrett Hess. No chance. Racetrack completely blocked in front of him, and he gets a little bit of damage, so those cars going to be forced to pit road for service. Your race leaders, however, not coming down pit road, still shy of quarter distance. So most, if not all, the cars on pit road now 32nd position on back after the timing and scoring updates and cycles through are the drivers who pit. I see Gary Weaver coming in from a top 25 spot, but it looks like most of these decisions for damage instead of fuel and or tires. Again, simpleton math would suggest if you got 3 sets, don't take a set before quarter distance, right? You can roughly space them out that way. But if anything, I'd argue you want to go a little bit deeper than that, because I'd like to have a set on me late in this race if I happen to need it.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of need that little like security set, like a security blanket almost, so that if something goes wrong in the restart, if we have a late restart, it's there, but then that's going to bring out all the strategy and stuff, so that's going to be tough. But that was a good first little run there by the 88 of Freenaz. He got away and was not able to get hunted down, really. The 90 and the 05 were too busy fighting themselves. The only problem is we really haven't seen how they do in traffic. And I'm not sure if that's going to be a key to really catching that 88 car, if traffic is going to be that big of a factor.
And that run was just shy of 30 laps, so we know that they're going to need at least longer than that if the race leaders are going to catch lap traffic and have to deal with the thick of the lap traffic as this race goes on. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And under the yellow, want to introduce once more the XPM Underdog of the Race Award. The Underdog of the Race Award presented by Extreme Performance Motorsports. After tonight's race, our broadcast team, that's how you say it, is going to select one driver in the field to be awarded a $5 bonus, and $5 will be donated to 3 Square Food Bank. So at the end of the year, $50 in driver bonuses going to be paid out, as well as $50 to charity that will supply 150 meals to families in need through 3 Square Food Bank. It was Andrew Farinaj, I believe, who won the Underdog of the Race Award last week after coming back from a lap down. So just warning you now, Jonathan, that'll be your responsibility to pick the underdog of the race tonight. So I'll give you the heads up now, so you can start thinking as we see somebody who kind of overcomes some adversity over the course of this one. 40 laps down, 160 laps to go. It's been all the 88 up front. Green flag flies, back underway.
I talked about it earlier. With these restarts and old tires, you saw a few guys get a bit squirrely as we pour down into turn 1.
1, 2, 3, maybe 4 are clear down the back straight away. The 2-car Nieto across the nose of Liam Sheen to stay in front, so we'll fight for 6th on back. Dane Cruz, the 44 of Michael Araya, blitzing through the field after he qualified at 8th. He wants another spot. Look at Washington and DeWeese going at it behind that duo.
48 car got pushed up a little bit to the outside, going into 3, made it 3 wide. A bit dicey for everyone, but everyone's okay, makes it through. And hopefully we can get some nice, good, clean laps. Front 10 or so single file now. Now the midfield again gets racy.
They're going to be going at it all night. Oftentimes, I think being a mid-pack driver is harder than a top-of-the-field driver because at least the guys up front get single-filed out for a little bit, right? They can ride around these guys in the middle pretty much white-knuckled all race long. Looking at the 13 machine in this mid-pack portion of the field and company. Got the one car in the mix as well, so that would be Joseph Tice. This is just about 15th or so on track. You got Mara stuck on the outside. Behind him, the 03 of Mariusz Lashinsky also stuck on the outside of the racetrack. The bottom, the place to be. Not even like the outside really has a lap or two. You kind of want to get to the bottom ASAP.
Yeah, it's that curve on that front stretch that really makes it strong. Although there's some guys, the 13's able to make it stick right now. It's John Edelberg in the 13 machine. But you're going to need the bottom because, look, you're going to get a huge run down into 3 right here. The 48 actually has to check up. I don't know if he has damage or just an issue. But then you have this huge straightaway where you can get a huge run, and the outside line has to take a much wider corner. So it's a bit of a touch and go, but the 13 actually impressing right now as he's able to hold the high line and able to clear the 48.
And an issue with the 54, Michael Mosier has received a throughput fall to an unacceptable level, so he is disconnected from the session. And if he could reconnect, going to be several laps down, but for all intents and purposes, that's the end of the night for the driver of the 54 machine. A little bit of door banging action here mid-pack. There's Mara still on the outside. No hope in sight as the 81 of Shane Parrish going to make the pass on him. And now we ride on board there with the other of the two, with Matt Mara, the 23 machine, tucking back in line. Maybe a bit of a shot that time, but look out. Here comes Brandon Key. You see the 20 car on his inside go by.
Yeah, and for Mara, this is one of those things where you get stuck on the outside. It kind of almost takes away your rhythm, your momentum. You can lose so many spots, and he's dropping like a rock right now. And maybe it's also just the old tires. Maybe it's just a little bit of fatigue setting in as we're now just under quarter distance, about to be quarter distance as soon as the leaders cross the line. So hopefully on pit cycles, Mara can, get back into focus and really make up some time gain as he finally gets to the bottom.
Finally gets a spot in line, but not before the damage is done. He loses a bunch of spots off of this. He falls back to 25th. Still 4 spots ahead of where he started this race. So it goes to show you how good he can be when he's in the right line, but just getting stuck on the wrong end of things there was no good for the driver of the 23. He tucks in line ahead of Steve Soa, 27th. Kyle Kamer in the number 28 spot on track at the moment. And some side-by-side behind as it looks like that's Soa to the outside, and Kamer clearing on the bottom. Will pick up a position. There's your onboard look with the 8.
Front row seats, all the midfield chaos. That's a brave move down the inside of the 23. Puts the throttle down early, able to clear him. It's now going to set out going through this midfield. Gamer started towards the rear of the field, and again, we have a lot of big movers and shakers in this midfield.
A lot of drivers in the green, a lot of drivers in the red, right? If you're going to have drivers going up, you got to have drivers dropping back, and it hasn't been for the most part because of any single large incident. Just drivers working through traffic. You can see Kamer now trying to set himself up way to the inside and leaning on Joe Burgee. He backs out, but what a dive. 3 wide with a late entry. That's not how you make friends.
Like a man that had the similar color cars of that number 4, and he's going to try it again and said, lick the stamp and send it. And here comes Kamer again, licking the stamp and sending it. The 20 on that outside. There's a little bit of a gap there, but I don't think you should take it. Bergey's being really good in maintaining it. He's able to clear the 20. Now the 2 cars are side by side, the 20 and the 8. The 4 is able to get on with it and try and get back on the 04, but Kamer again to the inside. God, he's the bravest of them all out here right now.
And it works, right? I mean, hey, I think we all knew the 8 was faster, makes the move, but you're right, when it was about that half a lane there, not sure if it was the right call to make it. Of course, he felt like he was getting held up, started this race 37th, but that was because he did not qualify. Kyle Kamer was a top 10 car in practice earlier this evening. So he's already plus 13 spots, make it plus 14 as he gets around Anthony Fredericks. I think we're going to have a lot of fun watching this SK Sim Racing Ford Mustang go through the field. Next on deck, it's Mariusz Lesinski, and he's not going to have a hope of holding off the 8. So Kamer made that decision not to queue, to stay back early, maybe avoid a little bit of the chaos, and now he has to put in the work to make up for it.
But there could be an issue with staying back and trying to, get through the chaos, because all of a sudden you might be in the middle of the chaos. I know this is a strategy I love to use instead of the A or B fixed races. I love to start at the back, passing cars, getting better at, judging my reference points, judging when to make moves and stuff. But, for this A machine, like, once he gets, like, in that midfield pack, like, right there into 3 and 4, it's gonna get dicey.
Because it's going to be more difficult to pass each car the further he gets up the running order. They're going to be a little bit faster, but also on top of that, as you mentioned, the mid-pack's the tightest bit, right? So you're going to have maybe a few more of those questionable 3-wide moments where you have to decide, do I need the spot now or can I afford to be patient? When you're trying to make up that many spots, I think you can afford to be patient in some regard, but I don't think you can sit around and just ride, right, for an extended period of time. So you do have to have some sense of urgency if you want to get yourself through the pack. There's the pass on Shane Parrish. He will take now P20.
And also you have to think about, like, when the leaders hit lap traffic. They haven't yet. We've only had a 30-lap green flag run.
Yes, they have.
Well, they've hit Dylan, but, he is a little wounded at the moment. But once they hit, like, some of this thick of things here, maybe in the 25th places mark, it's gonna be harder for these guys to even stay in the lead lap. There might be really hard fights for that lucky dog position if we might have a few cautions.
Yeah, they know how important that lucky dog is going to be. I think that they could probably get around Kaczynski 33rd and then Valderrama 34th, who they're closing up on. And after that, even the top 32, right, are only some 16 seconds apart from the top to the bottom. I think once you get to that point, there are battles happening. So it's not just, I don't want to let you by because I want to stay on the lead lap in case we get a yellow, but it's also, those are going to be lead lap cars fighting with each other that you're going to be coming up on. They're going to be much less inclined to get out of your way if it means that not only are they going to get lapped, but they're going to lose the spot at the same time too, right? So, and listen, Friedage has dealt with traffic many a time before, right? So he knows how to do it. He's got a 1.1 second advantage. It's not quite as large as his gap was at the same time in the last run. It was closer to 1.5. As he catches up to the 43 machine, and he'll put Sean Kalis 2 laps down. So all of these are different evolving factors as we look inside on the onboard there with Andrew Friedage. As he comes up on traffic, there's the O2 of Valderrama on the outside. And next up will be Kaczynski, where I think it's going to start to get considerably more difficult.
Yellow on track, caution is out. And the 10 machine, Steve Durham has got a hard impact, looks like, into the turn 2 wall. That was really close to our leaders.
Just in front of him. That's the way you got to be on your toes at all times. And that is just on his zone in turn 1. Got loose. Parked it right there. And then thought about coming down. Saw some traffic coming. Doesn't touch a thing. But it is our third yellow of the night.
Now this is where the debate starts about tires. Because we're about 65 in. Do you do it? Who pulls the trigger? If you're someone like the 88 machine, you've been out front, you gotta stay there. But if you're someone, I think, fifth on back, this is where you really, really have to think, what is the best decision?
Lap times as well, they've fallen off quite a bit. Best lap time for Friedage at 22.2. His last lap time before the yellow at 23.6. So about a second and change of fall off. Friedage is in. Eberhard, Howe, Danson, looks like everybody for the most part coming down pit road. I think maybe Dominic Howe stays out, so he will assume the race lead, but most of your lead lap cars are in, and I'm expecting it to be for 4 tires and fuel.
I'm a little surprised, but I'm a little not surprised. I was kind of hoping that there would be a few more outliers that want to risk it and stay up towards the front of the field, as it looks like right now we only have about 3 or 4 of them that did. But now this is going to get risky for them to really try and hold on to these positions.
First off of pit road is Freenage. There's no shock there. A 14.6 second 4-tire stop. That's the second best out of anybody on pit road. Only David Washington better, I think, with a 14.4 or so. And you're right, 4 drivers stayed out. Dominic Howe, Nick Silver, Thomas George, and it was Michael Kaczynski. Kaczynski, though, back down pit road this time through. So it'll be Howe, Silver, and George to go to 1, 2, 3.
And those cars relatively unscathed so far, so that's good. It's just going to be really getting the power down on the restart. We already saw on 30 laps, they were struggling a little bit. And they grouped up going into turn 1. I'm a little scared for our old race leader, the number 88 machine of Freenaz, because he's going to be right up behind these guys.
A lot of drivers discussing restart strategy, by the way. Dylan, go ahead.
I've got 3 minutes left of repairs, and you know what? I am way off the pace anyway, so I'm just gonna hold here. I'll probably end up like 7 laps down, but you know what? Anything can happen. I'm just gonna hope to pick up some spots before the race ends. But I just got also the chance to watch that replay of the incident earlier, and is that a racing incident in your eyes, our Lord and Savior?
I need you to run that by me again. I was listening to these drivers yelling at each other on the radio.
See, you gotta multitask. I've got them in my ear too. What do you feel like that was a racing incident? Because I feel like I had a quarter of a car space from the wall, but it's really hard to keep your line when it's a curved wall.
I don't think I can comment and be an objective race control person, so I will plead the 5th on that one.
Okay, so if
I will take the 5th, I will say
no comment is our official statement.
I am not going to take the responsibility for that. And if it screws me, well then so be it. But I've got a very good case that was a racing incident.
And
he's making his argument. He read the rule book. He knows the terminology. So that incident was not claimed by anybody, and it will go to a post-race review. This most recent incident was claimed by Steve Durham, so he'll go to the back. Yes, he will go to the back. I will, just be 7 laps down. So, okay. I think they're going green, so you might want to talk about that. Yeah, we'll let you drive the race car as we get back to it. This restart going to have 131 laps to go, 69 down. Dominic Howe up front. How long will the cars on old tires last? Here comes Freenage already to the outside of Silver. He'll take second. He now sets sights for the race lead.
Howe got a brilliant restart, and it's all going to be for naught, as here comes that 88 machine just down the inside, ready to retake the lead. And here comes the 90 as well, very, very optimistic, really wants to stay in touch with Freenaz, as now it's going to be multiple rows of 3 and 2.
Yeah, you'll see those 3 cars who stayed out drop like a rock. I feel like that was a bit of a missed opportunity for Daniel Eberhardt. You saw Freenage drive it into 3, not this lap, but last lap, and kind of get stuck behind Howe. I think if Eberhardt had seen that coming, he could have gone to the outside to get around him. Instead, he had to stay in line 2. Freenage gets to the race lead. It'll be awfully difficult to catch that 88 when you let him get out in traffic. There's 3 wide, though, down the back straightaway. It was near the 09 machine of Stephen Abogi, but it looks like they're going to single it out. No, 3 wide again with George and Washington. So this mid-pack not giving a lot of room to the outside wall. It was the 09, but he saves it.
Just a little bit of clipping from behind, going into the corner, able to bounce off the wall and save it, but now it's going to be a considerable amount of damage. And these guys that stayed on old tires, they're being a little bit of a cork in the bottle right now. These guys on the fresher tires want to go. They want to make sure they get these places back. And until those tires wear off for like the 24 and Howe and the 09, it's going to be rough.
Well, here's your risk, right? I always said, hey, I want an extra set of tires late in the race. So will that be nice? Yes. But that also means at some point here, you're going to be the odd man out. And it is an odd man out by a lot, right? We talked about it, about 1.3 to 1.4 seconds of fall off. Fresh tires to about 50 lap old tires. That's about how many green flag green flag runs we had in lap-wise before the time into the yellow where those drivers came in for service. And the question is always, will the tire advantage late be enough to make up the tire disadvantage in all the spots you're losing now? Only time will tell, as there's more 3 wide. That's Soa maybe, no, it's quite to the outside and into the outside wall. A bogey coming through, and there's a caution, I think, in 2.
Yeah, our pit reporter Dylan Coyle just came out of pit road, and that was the almost worst place to be out of pit road, as this caution was actually almost towards the rear of the field. 0-2 up, licks the stamp and sends it right into the outside wall.
It happens, right? That's the same spin that we saw with Durham 12 laps earlier.
This is a rough race. I don't know if the yellow was caused by something that happened up front, but I was staying on the outside. Okay. I was staying on the outside. Not sure if there's a replay of that. And 2 cars came underneath me going 3 wide, and again went into the wall. So not sure what happened there. Thought that was the yellow. This is where's Daytona when you want it?
Well, that was our 4th caution of the race. Keep in mind, Daytona had 8. So we're roughly at the, close to halfway. So maybe looking at a race for the same amount of yellows. I think we'll have less total involved in wrecks than Daytona would. But very short yellow. Jonathan, do we see any advantage? I mean, in theory, the guys who just got obliterated on the restart would like to say, okay, give me my tires, that sucked. But I don't know if you're going to get anything with 5-lap better tires when you lost so much on, 50-lap older ones, right? I think that you kind of got to go with the bed that you made for yourself and ride it out for a few more runs.
Yeah, I think you're just going to kind of lick your wounds and just say, all right, I'm just going to hold position here and try not to lose more spots. And that's a good note for everyone else later on in the race. Hey, 60 laps on your tires, yeah, that's a note. That's not going to last. That's not going to work late in the run. 30 laps was a bit dicey, as we saw in that first restart. Everyone got a little squirrely, so really, I think the fresh tires are going to be key in managing when or not you take those sets. Is going to be, I think, a difference maker in producing a winner.
Valderrama claiming responsibility for the incident. He will get an EOL if the car is back on track, but he's currently in the pits getting repaired. So is Stephen Price, so is Dylan Coyle, Brian Chambliss, Shane Parrish, Nick Silver, some of the cars who were down pit road this time to patch up their wounds. As this restart will take us closer to the halfway point, this time by 80 laps down. Going to be 120 laps to go. You can see the mad dash off of pit road for Steve Durham, who doesn't want to lose an additional lap. He's 2 laps down at the moment, so he's coming in and trying to get that damage fixed.
And those that still have clean cars are probably rejoicing that we're getting closer and closer to halfway. And, you mentioned we're on pace for the same amount of cautions this Daytona. However, a lot of these incidents have been one-car incidents besides our issue with our own Dylan Coyle going into turn 1 with him in the 22. It's just kind of been one-car spins. So I feel like we're everyone's in a good spot. Everyone's kind of okay. We're still feeling each other out a little bit. We really need a long green flag run, I think, in order for everyone to get really comfortable.
We had 2 consecutive 30-lap-ish runs. We went from about lap 35 to lap 5 to 35, and then 35 to 65-ish. But since then, 2 cautions within 12 laps of each other. We'll see if we can get a little bit of a green flag run in close to halfway in this IWRAPS 200. No change up front after those cars with the fresh tires were able to push their way through. It is Faridaj Everhart, row number 1. It is Danson and Lariah, row number 2, Sam Nieto and Liam Sheen. working row number 3, positions 5 and 6 for running order at the top of your screen. Pace car down and in. Friedrich needs to get out in front once more, and it's a great jump for the 88.
'05 very keenly. He's able to, not able to clear the 44. I was about to say he was able to clear and try and get after those two up front. But it's going to be the 90 and the 88 show as they have created a huge gap. What an excellent restart from the 90 after not being toe-to-toe with the 88 going into 1. He's right there on his back bumper.
You're doing a good job of staying with. Meanwhile, for third, Danson survives a challenge by Lariah for the moment. Sheen wants to challenge now in a battle for position number 4. So all these drivers to work their way through the field. We talked about Michael Lariah, who, to be clear, didn't start deep in the pack by any stretch of the imagination. Qualified in 8th position, which isn't bad at all. But at the same time, keep in mind that, it's going to be awfully difficult to make moves on those guys up front. So they're all trying to pick up a spot here, pick up a spot there, do kind of whatever they can to make some moves in this race. And Danson, I thought maybe was going to fall to the 44 there, but it was a real good defensive move by Danson to maintain P3. And now all the attention is on Lariah and company. Liam Sheen is going to try to chase him down. Liam Sheen recently joined and signed with Total Downforce. So new colors on that 34 Chevrolet, I should say, starting this week at Richmond. And it's got a sight set on Lariah, who is one of the best drivers in the Cup Series this year.
But he has Sam Yetta for company in that 2 car, and that 2 car has been beating his back bumper out of turn 4. He's going to do it again right here. Try and get side by side going down into 1. It's going to be battle of the late breakers. This is great for the top 3. Is Sam Yetta able to clear? Excellent move by him getting down. But again, the top 3 are all smiling right now. They're just going to drive away and make this just a 3-horse race if they can.
Trying, right? And I think that those guys up front have wanted to separate themselves, and they have. But what I've noticed is every run, and it's not just Eberhard making adjustments, right? They didn't pit this last time. They pitted the last time, so maybe it could be a sampling from that. But first 30-lap run of the race, Brunage was 1.5-ish seconds out to the race lead, right? That second long run, the advantage only maximized at about 1.1 to 1.2. This time, Eberhard's not letting him get more than 2-3 car lengths ahead. So I don't know if it's just Eberhard improving a lot or Friedrich starting to struggle a little bit on some of the longer runs. But the gap between 1 and 2 has closed significantly, I think, from the opening stint of this race. Eberhard's looking a lot better, maybe learning a lot of things by riding in behind that 88 car and kind of picking up on some stuff.
Well, even as well, I think, just from a racer standpoint, seeing and being able to see that you're closing in, that's got to do something for Eberhard right now. He's looking, he sees, all right, Freenaz is not unbeatable. He's not uncatchable. Just because he's fastest in practice, he qualified on pole, doesn't mean he can't be beaten the racetrack. And they're both showing excellent pace, though, because, Danson in the 05 is a bit of a ways back right now. But if these two start fighting, Danson will be back in the conversation.
And that's the key. You talked about that with cars mid-pack, fighting with each other, allowing everybody else to close up into them. We talked about them with lapped cars, fighting with each other, allowing the leaders to get closer. Same applies to those race leaders. If Eberhard wants to make a play on Friedrich here, and Andrew wants to fight him for it, if they go side by side for any number of laps, it would allow Danson to close the gap. A gap right now that sits at about 1.2 seconds. I think Friedrich would be one of the drivers to not really worry that much about it. He'd kind of just let you go, tear up your stuff, and then come back at you. That's pretty much his MO normally, right? He's known to be the guy that can conserve the tires and make it work on the longest of long runs. But you never know, and Eberhard is all over him right now, closing this time at a 2. The difference is less than 1 car length.
I'm wondering if that's what Freenaz is doing, if he's trying to conserve the tires, and he realizes, all right, I already used 1 set. I only have 1 set of new tires left. I have to be conservative, and maybe this might be too tempting for Eberhard. Maybe he needs to back off a little bit and realize this 88 may not be pushing it.
And pick up on that, right? maybe if he feels like Freenage is giving it his all, you just sit there on the bumper, you try to push, and you try to make him give it 110%. Whereas if you feel like that he's saving a little bit, take advantage of it. There's a little bit of radio communication back in the back. Shane Parrish not happy with Steve Soa. There was, I believe, no contact and no incident, but I think Shane felt like he was squeezed a little bit in the battle for number 25 on the racetrack. So that's just some of the radio chatter that I'm picking up. You can see Soa 75 leading this trio of cars under attack by Silver, and now Dominic Howe through on the inside. That'll put Parrish back into P28.
Howe's going to be trying to charge back up to the field, and same with that 24 of Nick Silver. I think you mentioned they were on pit road last time by. They were the guys that stayed out, and unfortunately were the guinea pigs, teaching us that, well, yeah, the old tires don't work. So they're going to try and make their way through the pack right now as the 81 looks back inside. Howe, good move into 3, and now everyone else behind is going to try and take advantage. But again, for a lot of these guys, this fighting might not do themselves any good. We haven't had a long green flag run where the leaders get to lap traffic, and every time I mention it, some other caution comes out. But if lap traffic starts to be a factor, this fighting is going to be counterproductive for both the leaders and them.
Ross Cato joking on the radio as he rides in position number 23 that the force feedback on his wheel is going to have him ripped by the end of this race. Obviously, dealing with a lot of force feedback as the default setting on his wheel, and maybe didn't turn that down to his liking. I always find it interesting that when you're talking about the pros of this, Soa loses a ton of time off of 2 there, and Silver and Parrish both going to pass him. They actually prefer very minimal, if any, force feedback, because if you're fighting with your wheel, it may be a little bit more realistic, but if you're fighting with a wheel, you're not, kind of optimizing your line. It's like willingly driving with power steering off. So Ross maybe left that a little bit too high, because we are closing in on halfway. In fact, going to be halfway home this time by in the IWRAPS 200, and his arms are feeling it.
This is called weightlifting for me. I've got my default force feedback on, and you know what?
You feel good?
It's not like I'm. It feels like I'm getting a workout. I mean, I'm 11 laps down. Might as well get something out of this race.
Well, there's your cardio or your workout for the day, if you will. So you'll take care of that. You got another set of reps to go, because 100 laps down and 100 laps to go from Richmond. Let's take a look top to bottom and go through the field and take a look at our IWRAPS midway race break. Freenage still leading with a slight advantage over Daniel Epperhart, who rides in the number 2 spot. 2 seconds behind him, Matt Danson in 3rd. Michael Arias 4th right now. Sam Nieto still in 5th spot, but he's under fire with Dane Cruz in 6th and David Washington in 7th. Agnel Phillip is 8th. Joseph Tice from 36th on the grids cracked the top 10 spot. He is in 9th, and Liam Sheen is P10.
Jeremy Miller, Kyle Tondo, we haven't really talked about those guys much. The 3 of Braxton DeWeese was up in the top 5 for a little bit. Jason Wermoser again falling back and forth. John Ellenberg has been in that midfield back as we got a spinner out of turn 4. I think it's the 10 car again. Oh, when it
Up
rains,
against
it
the
pours.
wall. Yeah, not a good night for Steve Durham. Let's watch this one to see if he had some help. Last time he was involved in an incident. It was on his own in turn number 1. This time in turn number 3. Oh, and there was a touch there.
Yeah, briefly. I think the rear wheels touched when they were side by side, and it gets the car a little bit upset and off the ground. And well, that's, yeah, when it rains, it pours, I guess, for the 10. It's going to be really hard to recover now for him.
Claiming responsibility for that incident is going to be Michael Kaczynski, so Durham doesn't have to worry about being penalized for him, but you're right. You get in 1 incident, you get in 2, it's rough. Split decision for pit road. Michael Araya is in. Freenage and Epperhart have stayed out. This one, a bit more of a split call than last time.
I'm wondering if it may just be for 2 here, or if it's going to be the full 4, but I think a lot of guys after Freenage pitted, I think it's just a handful. Him and the 2, the 34, and yeah, that may be all she wrote for these guys. Like, they're going to be at the rear of the field, yeah, with fresher tires. We already seen this mid-pack get, angry, get very, very dicey.
They go for 4, so Lariah, Nieto, Phillip, and Sheen all in and out of pit road, and then further back for the running order, Dominic Howe, Shane Parrish, Thomas George, Steve Soa, and then you've got cars down for repairs like Price and Valderrama, whose nights may very well be done. Didn't get a chance to look through all of your running order there, and it's going to shuffle up again, so not like we should resume from 15th, but I'll get the plug-in nonetheless. Your midway race break brought to you by IWRAPS. IWRAPS is changing how you find virtual wraps for iRacing. Visit iWraps.shop and enter code RSRWinter20 to receive 20% off your first order. Through the website, you can select a pre-designed paint scheme to purchase and customize it by changing the colors, sponsors, and more. That's RSR Winter 20 at iWraps.shop for more information. 5 yellow flags in this race to the halfway point. About a quarter of the field is either a lap down or out of it with damage, but 31 cars still on the lead lap. I'd reckon that's a pretty impressive number.
It's a good number, and again, a lot of these cautions have been one-car cautions, but correct me if I'm wrong. So we have 3 tire sets for the race, and that was including the one you started on, correct?
It'll be 3 additional sets of tires, so 4 sets total.
I thought the 44 and the 2 just took their last set of clean tires. I was scratching my head a little bit.
That would have been a bit bold.
Okay, yeah, so they still have a set left.
Yeah,
but those guys up front have 2. Okay.
Correct, and we try to be nice and give them a realistic number of tires. Where we're really mean about it is in other series, like the truck series, where we'll only give them 2 sets of tires additionally, but they have to make like at least 3 green flag pit stops to get to the end of the race, so then you get real fun with the strategy. But yeah, in most cases, the 3 additional sets of tires that they're given is more than enough to go to the end, and that's why I think the pit stop made sense, honestly, right? Past halfway, you take another one at about lap 150, you're good to go, but if we see more yellows, again, it could give the advantage. I said I wanted an extra set, you race leaders do, and we'll see how difficult it's going to be for the cars who pitted to come through the field. Michael Lariah is the lead of those cars, and he restarts back in P20.
And we already saw how dicey it could get a little bit of bumping and rubbing. And we're past halfway. Some guys have been given a little bit, give and take, but when is that patience going to wear out?
We haven't seen a lot of anger boiling over. I mentioned there's been a couple of spats on the radio, nothing too major. We'll see if that changes in the second half of this short track night race from Richmond. Green flag in the air. We're back underway. Another perfect start for Ferdinand. Eberhard stays second. Danson maintaining third. The fight for P4. Dane Cruz clearing Jeremy Miller.
Danson does not have that bad of a challenge this time. He's able to keep third position, but Eberhard a little bit in the back bumper of the 88, has to get out of the throttle. But now back in this midfield, it's just a mess right now. 2 wide going into 1, everyone lifting, trying to get the most out of their cars. The 3 looking inside, looking out, cuts down in front of the 48. That's not how you make friends.
If somebody went way to the inside, 3 wide too. I think that was Thomas George, but then he changed his mind when he realized, oh yeah, that's probably not a good idea. He kind of backed down to that one and bailed as you ride on board up top. Here's some split screen on boards in this battle. Left-hand side of your screen, battling is Matt Mara. Right-hand side of your screen, Gary Weaver. Weaver currently scored 27th position. Trying to make his way through the field, and you can see all the messy stuff up the road from him.
44 slicing and dicing. He's looking to make moves in the fresh tires. He thought about it. He thought about making it 3 wide there for a second. As Mara has to get out of it and lose a couple spots to those guys in fresh tires. And those guys that have been riding around at the rear of the field, this is always, I think the worst part of the split strategy is that you're the first victims to these guys in fresh tires.
And at least when we saw the last big tire difference, when it was 3 cars who stayed out and everybody else on fresh tires, I think it's easier for a lot of fast cars to avoid a few slow cars than it is for a little amount of fast cars to avoid a lot of slow cars, right? So the odds are stacked against these guys. For Lariah and company who are trying to work their way through traffic. Lariah right here. Oh, sideways was Liam Sheen. He is okay. I thought he was going to end up in the grass. I just saw the corner of that. There is the 34. He's good for the moment, fighting aggressively with the 09 machine. But it's Lariah up the road who's trying to work through all this chaos, and he's done so far pretty successfully.
Sheen and the 09 are not making each other friends right now. The 09 came down a little bit going into 3, trying to be defensive as possible, and unfortunately Sheen got around. But I think the biggest part about, these faster guys getting to the field is its whole mid-pack has been too wide, and all you have to do is just get on the bottom and send it. Lariah's made a ton of spots already, and he's dragging Nieto in the number 2 with him.
Yeah, it almost makes it easier for Nieto, right? Because you've got, I'll stick with the Winter Series theme. You've got Rudolph blazing the trail, and you're just following him through, right? You're making Lariah do all the hard work here, pick the pass, set it up, go to execute. And Sam Nieto's just like, yeah, I agree, right? I'm going to follow him through. And maybe the 44 has to work a little bit harder, being the lead of these cars with the fresh tires, whereas he's kind of paving the road for Nieto. Maybe that could give an advantage to the 2 later on in this run. The last time by, Lariah with a 22.8 at the top of the board. For Freedage, it was a 23.1, so they are definitely faster. If this run goes for another 15-20 laps or so, they'll probably get all the way to the race lead, but that's the gamble. If a yellow comes, all those cars who didn't pit will come in, and then just like that, you'll become the sitting ducks.
Yeah, but now that they've cleared like that large heap of traffic, I think they're okay, because this is the battle, I believe, for 5th right in front of him. The 46 who's running wide a little bit into the wall. That's Dane Cruz. Everyone has to back out of it a little bit. 98 now sends it down. Here comes Loretta. Into the top 5 goes the 44. What was that, 5, 6 laps maybe? And the 2 and the 44 are already pretty much back where they were.
The last yellow was marked as coming in at 103, so by the time you got to the restart, you're looking at about a position a lap for these cars as they drive through the field. Something happened with Liam Sheen as well. Number 34 is on pit road. He blew an engine. The Liam Sheen, just talking about him being in a very good position, he was 11th in the running order, had a little bit of front-end damage, and the engine let go on him without notice. He is now limping to pit road, might not make it to his pit stall, and his night is done.
And that was a shame, because 34 was being aggressive and was in a good spot. Again, had a little bit of damage, but, at the end of the day, if you come home with a little bit of banged-up race car, what matters is what you're coming home for, not what's left of the race car.
And that was such a poor result after his team did so well. They called themselves the team, and the story behind that is we saw all those team paint schemes in the Daytona opener, but they weren't marked on the registration as team cars. So we knew they were teammates, we just didn't know how, so we just called them the team all night. You can see the 86 and the 46 just running over each other in turns 3 and 4. That pass going to happen mid-pack. So they decided to just call themselves the team. They lead the team points, no pun intended, after getting 3 cars in the top 7 in the Daytona season opener. But a poor result, and Sheen has disconnected that car to the garage. His night is done. Is going to hurt that team's efforts for a points championship for the team points. It's not an actual thing. Trophy only goes to the driver championship, but we saw it this past Cup Series. A lot of guys like fighting for that team championship for bragging rights.
Oh, and it's kind of like that we're coming together and doing something as a whole. And I think, part of like the team sport is to, work with each other, build off of each other a little bit. As holy cats, here comes the 44 and the 2. Hello, they've passed Eberhardt, and that 88 is a sitting duck. That 44 is coming.
Yeah, ideally for Lariah, it would be a race that goes to the end maybe to this point, or at least if they have one more caution flag, I think he wants it to be as late as possible, right? If the yellow comes now, Lariah can't afford to get tires, because if he takes him, he's going to be a sitting duck, or if he takes him, he's not going to have tires for the end of the race. Well, everybody else will, and if he doesn't, he'll be a sitting duck, right? But new race leader, and for the first time tonight, a pass for the race lead under green flag conditions. It is the 44 of Michael Lariah to the point at lap 126. If you remember, the Cup Series finale at Phoenix was in a great position to win that championship until he ended up on the backside of strategy where a late race yellow came out. Gave Andrew Freitas fresh tires. Freitas drove to the win and to the title. Maybe a similar story tonight with Michael Laraya leading the race with one set fewer of tires available in the run to the end. But right now he's looking good and he is checked out. Sam Nieto also passed Freitas for second.
Laraya is the people's champion, I must say. He got... Unfortunately, that yellow came out due to a car continuously spinning there. So, nonetheless, he is a driver to look out for as this series goes on. I mean, it was his first full season of Full Throttle Cup Series running, and in that season, to come oh so close to winning the championship. I mean, there was a restart with 2 laps left, and he was the champion. He was just a sitting duck right then. But yeah, Laraya, Freitas, Eberhardt, the guys you typically assume are going to be fighting for this championship, well, they still will be fighting for this championship here.
3-time race winner, 23 top 10s in 30 starts. He was one of just 6 drivers who started every single Cup Series race last season. I'll give a shout out to all of them. Freitas, Laraya, Washington, Stanford, Soa, and Kalist started all 30 of the Cup Series races. And now Laraya wanting to add a Winter Series checkered flag to his repertoire. You can see the 90 of Eberhardt and Dominic Howe doing battle. And there is a caution. Lap 131. There's a couple of cars up against the wall in turn number 2. I think it was the 81 car, Shane Parrish.
Goes down into the first corner and oh. I need to see a different angle of that because I don't know if the 3 came down or if the 81 came up.
Well, let's watch. The 81's going for the pass.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, both maybe.
And that's a oof. Yeah, and the 81 has been bounced around a little bit in that midfield, and same with the 3. They've both not had a very clean, fun night, if I'm going to be honest. But yeah, the 81 was a little bit brave, dove in, and the 3 came down, trying to give him as least amount of space as possible, and 2 doesn't go into 1.
So here's your flip side as Braxton DeWeese claims responsibility for the yellow, as those cars who had just pitted and therefore got the big advantage are not coming down pit road. There's no surprise there. So now they will be on the backside and they're going to get swallowed up. Freitas leading everybody else down pit road. There's going to be 9 cars total who stayed out. It's everybody who pitted last yellow plus David Washington. So it's going to be 4 tires for Freitas and company. Freitas is going to win the race off of pit road, and he is going to restart in about 10th position with fresh tires. You thought Laraya was quick going through the field. Now it's time for the 88 and the 90 to try to reclaim it.
Yeah, but I think Laraya and Naylor still had good pace, so if they can get out to a bit of a lead here before not too long, the problem is I think they're not going to be able to make it to the end. I think everyone who just pitted is going to be good for fuel for sure. They can make it to the end on those tires. These guys up front are going to have to pit again, which I think is the really sour part of this caution.
And there's, multiple ways this can go, right? We could get a yellow in about 25, 30 laps, which is the same distance of that last run. That's kind of the average of a run we're seeing here tonight. And then if they all pitted together, there would be no advantage, right? I'm not sure anybody but Daniel Eberhardt has a realistic chance at beating Andrew Freitas head-to-head, mano-a-mano, right? So maybe if I'm Laraya, Nieto, those guys, even if I lose the race lead here, say we get a yellow at about 3/4 distance, 150, I probably do the opposite of what Freitas does. If he pits, I stay out and hope for a later yellow. If he stays out, maybe I pit, right? Because I need to find something to differentiate myself for the best car all night if I want to upset him and win it.
It's that good old Formula One racing quote, do whatever he doesn't do. And that's going to be, I think, the key later on. If we get late race cautions, it's, listen, do whatever the guy in front of you does not do. So it's going to be a lot of split strategy. And especially if you're up front and we have a late race caution, you're a sitting duck. If you commit to pit and everyone else stays out, well, too bad. The fast tires are fast, but if you have to pass 20 cars in about 2 laps, that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna work. So it's gonna be, you know, if we get another caution late, it's gonna be about managing that. But if we don't, and we somehow go green to the end, I think that would play into Freenot's chance perfectly almost, because he's been the fastest car on pace, apart from Eberhardt. And a lot of these guys that were up there in like 3rd or 4th, the 44 and the 2, they have to pit again.
Freenot, we mentioned, a 2-time defending champion of this series, and when he won the title here last year, it was not even close. Of the 10 races on the championship, he won 7 of them, started from pole in 6 of them, and won the championship by a monstrous 147-point difference. That's the difference between a 10-race championship and a 1-race winner-take-all Cup Series title, which he's also been good in winning the last 3 of those in Full Throttle Cup. Let's see how this restart plays out. Lariah going to go to the outside for the restart. He's in control. We're back underway. 64 laps to go. Look for the all-white Chevy of Freenot.
Already up 2 or 3 places. Someone gets a little loose right there. And oh, we got a commotion towards the rear of the field.
Yeah, everybody just pulled over as the 19 of Eric Stanford was all kinds of out of shape in turn number 2. Did a fantastic job of saving that race car. And I'm shocked that everybody else who checked up didn't wreck, right? You see that so many times. Now there's a spin.
The brothers got into each other.
In turn 2, was it the Mara brothers? One of them's parked up against the wall right now. That's Nick Mara. He will roll. No caution again because it was a single car incident. And I think Nick Mara spun on his own right in front of his brother. No yellow comes out. We stay green. Here comes Freenot to the inside of Michael Lariah. It is a new race leader. Freenot to the top of the board.
And now Freenot can just check out and say goodbye. 3 or 4 wide back there. Holy cats, we're getting
that's
crazy.
not going to work. Not going to work. Not going to work. Oh, it's Kyle Trudell. He's in the wall. Joseph Tice is on his lid. Yellow at lap 140.
I saw that coming out at 2, and I was like, oh, we're getting racy, boys. We're getting at it. We're getting dicey, and this is what happens when you have these split pit strategies like it here. 27 in the 9, the 9's on old tires, 46 to the inside. They're going to try and split the 7, and there's just no room, just nowhere for them to go, and the 1's an unfortunate victim of that incident.
That was 4 drivers who probably all could have made a better decision. You saw that it started with that 46 Machida Cruz who got a little bit sideways, and he did nothing wrong. He just held the bottom, but Silver tried to split the gap. Let's watch this all unfold. They're fine here. I mean, 3 wide, sketchy enough, but they're fine. Right there, though, Cruz gets sideways. He holds the bottom. They're 3 wide. And then when Silver goes for the middle, he wasn't quite clear of anybody. The 7 tried to give him room. The 1 was there. And as you mentioned, that does not work. We saw a lot of 4 wide. We saw a lot of contact off of that last restart. I'm surprised it took us that long to get a caution.
I'm watching the replay right now. Did they really go 4 wide?
They did. They tried. Somebody thought it was a good idea.
Hey, that's usually when we're starting out any typical, just, you know, a weekly race on iRacing. Usually the joke is everybody says, all right, let's have a clean into turn 1. Everyone says, okay, so 4 wide into turn 1. That took it 4 wide in turn 3, and obviously that's what happened. It's not wide enough to comfortably go 3 wide whatsoever. It may seem so in the corners, but when you get back onto the straight, especially the front straight, everything is going to come up. Everything will come back up, wash up the track, and because you're still turning left, it's going to, the turning radius of the driver on the inside is going to be a lot higher than the driver on the outside. That means they're going to run into the concern of spinning the tires more, having a bigger issue there, and that can obviously lead to a spin. 4 wide obviously is not the way it should ever work. However, if you would like a personal update on my race,
I was just going to ask, how's it going?
Still 11 laps down, but you know what? I've been pretty fine after the first kerfuffling in the 50 laps, the first 50 laps of the race. I am happy with the car. It's handling well. Just a shame I can't be fighting up top. But I'm currently in 33rd. If I get a top 30 out of this race, I will be mighty happy. And if I get to 27th, where I started the race, I would be thrilled. That just means more cars having more issues, and if that happens, well, I'm all for it.
I'm not going to book it, but I know that it was 1-0 for Wawa as of last week at Daytona. Currently, the Sheets car is ahead of you, so this may be an interesting side points championship that's going to run through the rest of the year. Should be seeing the lights go out on top of the pace car this time by. Yes, they do. So we'll restart it with 55 laps to go. Just shy of 3/4 distance in this IWRAPS 200. You're watching the 2021 RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series live on RaceSpotTV with our producer Hugo Luis, our in-race reporter Dylan Coyle, Jonathan Burke, and myself, Evan Pasoko. So the cars who had the tire benefit about a dozen laps ago and were at the disadvantage that last time still didn't hit. So it's going to be worse for Lariah, for Nieto, for Agnell, Phillip, and company. They're going to continue to be well off the pace on this run, but that means that I think all our major players have one additional set of tires left on pit road. We'll see how they decide to use them. Green flag flies back underway. It's another good jump at the bottom, and here comes Eberhardt. He'll get the spot from Danson just like that for P2.
Danson spun the tires just a little bit, held up him in the 44 of Lariah, and now Eberhardt can go back and attack the 88. He's been doing all that. Here comes Nick Silver. Brave move down the inside. The man goes 4 wide into turn 3 and says, I'm going to still go 3 wide into turn 3. That's fine. 4 is a bit much. Because now he's going to move all the way up to 4th with that move.
Yeah, he'll settle for 3, right? He goes, okay, 4 is crossing a line, so let's stick with the safe bet of 3. And Nick Silver, somebody else, we've been talking about a lot of cars going through the field. Guys who didn't queue, right? Gary Weaver, 41st to 14th. Oh, and it's another one of the Maras into the inside wall, and Kamer's there also.
Did you hear my uh-ohs?
I did. You got our attention. Did you get a good view?
I got a fantastic view of that the entire way. If our lovely producer would like to show that on board, Kyle Kammer claiming responsibility for that incident. If, well, I can't see the stream, so take it away.
Just got into him there in the center of 1 and 2. Looked like a little bit of a slow exit for the 32 of Nick Ibarra. Here's the onboard with the 79 car of Dylan Coyle up the road. You can see the spinners into the wall. Bet you're happy they didn't come back up into traffic.
Yes, I came very close to that one. It's just more cars falling down the order out of the race, and that puts another position up for me. I mean, if I get a top 20 in this championship, by the end of it, I will be thrilled. I mean, if you look at my I rating, it is I believe the second lowest out of everybody in this field. So it's not high. I know Andrew Ferdinand is at 8,000 I rating. I'm at after the week from hell, I'm at a 1350 I rating, which is really rough. But yeah, right. I was at 1,900 above Jonathan, and all of a sudden Jonathan stayed there, and I didn't.
I've actually improved. Thank you very much. I'm actually 2,200 right now. I have 2 wins at Chicagoland.
So much.
I'll have to check the stats, but mostly just cup cars and
okay. That'll do it.
Yeah, and Jonathan was over. Actually, I think you would find this funny. I was racing an IndyCar, finished pretty high up, 6th or 7th, and went completely yellow free until the very last 3 laps, which ended the race at Auto Club, which then a car spun right in front of me. Jonathan, would you like to take it away from here?
Was this the one where you were collected in this crash and you were really bummed?
No, I just barely got out of it.
Oh, yeah, it was like an inch. It was an inch. It wasn't more than an inch.
I think I defied all logic. I got most of my I rating at Talladega, which just doesn't make sense. because I did 3 A fixed races there, and I think I won all 3. So I'm never going to drive it again, because you're never going to do better than that. So I walked away. My road is awful though, because I had to get, was it a C to do the 24 hours of Le Mans? So I just rode around in the back in like the skippies or something, just to get enough SR to get the automatic bump. So just don't look at my road stats.
You're a farmer.
You had to do what I had to do. So is what it is. We finished 15th in the 24 hours of Le Mans. That was pretty good. I'll take it.
I mean, Evan, I have the week. I think out of everyone here at RaceSpot, and it's proven by, you know, me and Simul Aurora and our Junior Kankapati talking about IWRA, I think I have the lowest road rating here, and I'm not the best road driver. So I feel like you can pat yourself on the back and know that you can probably kick my butt.
I don't know. I've been saying this for a while. We need to bring back the bragging rights invitational. I know we had it a couple of years back with all the different broadcasters, where the commentators did a bunch of races. So I'm once again trying to make that happen. So we'll see. Settle it once and for all, if you will.
Dylan, just so you know, it's not above 4 digits. That's all I'm going to say.
By the way, I believe Nick Mara took a fast repair.
Which Mara was in the wall?
I think it was Nick. Nick may have accidentally done it, which would be parked at the end of the race. So we'll see how this thing plays out. Pace car going to be down and in. Restart, 48 laps to go. The Freenage show up front. Green flag flies. We're back underway. And now that we're racing, I'll finish my shout out to Nick Silver, who qualified 21st, but the top 5 car right now, doing everything he can.
Didn't get that great of a restart, but Ebenhard has probably had the best restart he's had all night, and he's on the back of the 88 already. And that 05, it's been a bit of a dark horse as that 05 machine. It hasn't done, you know, the fast laps. It hasn't been leading a lot, but it's always remained in that mirror. It's just a constant reminder that, hey, you're not leaving the field. The rest of us are still here.
And you can see the 90 machine. Daniel Eberhardt knows that time is running out to find a little bit of extra something to catch Freenage in traffic. It's Jaron Widemaster under attack. A spin. Was that Washington? Yes, it was. He's in the grass. He's okay. After the 4 car of Joe Berge got a little bit loose and tagged him.
I believe Berge and Washington have had some, or at least Berge and a few others have had some words shared during the course of this race. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
I think David Washington has words with at least somebody every night.
True.
If you wrong him, he is not afraid to speak up as one of the vets.
I've learned get out of his way when he's coming and let him make his own fortunes.
The no yellow, he saved it, but it's a big hit for David Washington, who just a handful of laps ago was running in the number 13 spot, now back in position 26. But again, nobody spun, no yellow, we stay green. And you're looking at the top 2 breakaway. Daniel Eberhardt is all over Freenage, looking to the left rear quarter panel, but he'll lose a lot at a turn 4. Wonder if the 90's at the point yet where he's maybe committing to have to use the bumper at some point tonight.
That's the rite of passage for every oval racer, isn't it? The good old bump and run on these short tracks. It's just a signature move, and he has not been able to pass Freenage on pure pace because Freenage gets such a good run out of these corners. You can see it, like he's running his back bumper heading into him, but on these corners, like this 88 machine is just so smooth because he gets to the back bumper right here. This is where the 88's going to go, on those corner exits.
And that's the key, is unless you're going to force that guy to move you and make his own bed, because if he moves you now, then you have every right to give it back or put it in your back pocket for a time later this season. Unless he's going to move you, it's going to be awfully difficult for him to be better on corner exit. That's why we see Eberhardt close in, because Freenage is backing up the corners, and then on exit he pulls a little bit more. This time, 40 laps to go from Richmond. The numbers say that it will not go to the end. How does it play out? Freenage looking for a first win of the season.
It's kind of fun watching everybody compete up front. You know, obviously I've been out of this race for over 100 laps, but just kind of chugging along board behind everybody, letting them go by. It's not my race to race them. I don't want to make any enemies out there, but there is some hard racing, and you know what? I am getting a nice workout and getting a show out of it, so you can't get much better than that.
We'll have Wednesdays to dig, don't worry.
Oh, Wednesday. Completely forgot that we have Wednesday to still go here, which is at Daytona.
Old Daytona, bumpy Daytona.
Oh, wow. So that's going to be no pack racing, basically. Oh, man. There's no way anyone can take that track 3 wide with the Legends cars. No way.
I don't even want to go too wide there. So we'll see how that one shakes out for the RSR Throwback Series. I will. So probably going to have to claim a caution or two.
We need to have you and I Twitch streaming it and talking, like broadcasting from our cars.
I think we'll talk, and maybe we'll make that happen by some point over these Wednesdays. And I'll use this as the plug that even though that one won't be on RaceSpotTV, you can keep up with that and all of the things going on at RSR by following us on Twitter at RealSimRacing, Facebook.com/RealSimRacing online, and at RealSimRacing.org. So got my mandatory plugs in and we're good. Here's our second look at a split shot with Matthew Barra and Gary Weaver, left and right-hand side of your screens respectively. This battle's come down to the end for the race lead, but I'll tell you what, Jonathan, these guys don't look like they've relaxed at all at any point tonight. They look just as intense as they did at the start of this thing.
Well, even just the racing, it looks like there's been a bit of a calm down after that little incident just a few laps ago on our last caution. But it seems like it's been the similar intensity throughout. Like, no matter if it's been 200 to go or right now it's 34 to go, it's been a very, very similar intensity. And now the 2 leaders are going to start to hit some of the wounded machines. There's the 7 who's limping around after that 4-wide accident, but maybe if they hit lap traffic, every time I say it, there's a caution that comes out, but maybe if they hit lap traffic, that's going to be a big issue, especially now that everyone's, you know, it's getting towards the end. Everyone's getting a bit racy. We're going to get good pushing. And then we still have those guys that still owe us a pit stop.
In theory, everybody should have tires left. Nick Silver's being shown as 3 trips down to the pit lane, but I don't think he took 3 tires. And again, they start with the set, they get 3 additional. So all these cars should have tires to the end.
Spin and turn
And
2.
just as we say it, probably turn 2, it sounds like a caution. Was it the 9 of Thomas George? Yes, it was. Was it
Durham.
unassisted? No.
Steve Durham is taking the fault for that one.
Was on
now it's pulling for sure for the
168. Yeah, that was. I mean, I talked about how there's that temptation, right, to go to the bottom because the line in is so high, but that was from way behind the dive.
That stand was a little too licked.
Now here's something interesting. 44 and the 2 have remained out on track, and I don't know if they were on pit road after the last caution. I don't think they were. I think they stayed out as well.
Durham's going to claim responsibility, so just want to mention that before I forget. And with Fernandez in, so, and this is what I thought they would do, right? So Lariah stays out. He was on that group that was on the old tires, and I said just do the opposite of the leader. There's several drivers doing that. Lariah, Nieto, looks like Key, Cato, Michael Kaczynski, and Sean Kalis, maybe John Ellenberg. It's going to be a 4-tire stop for Fernandez. He is now out of tires. He's running on those Goodyear Eagles to the end of the race. Is this decision to stay out going to allow Michael Lariah to stay in front of Fernandez to win this race? No. Fernandez is going to get back past him. This is the long game with only 30 laps to go. Seems funny to say that, right? But now he's hoping to get 15 laps in, to get another yellow and get his tires. And again, I say why not if we're talking about fighting for the race win. Now, if you want to put your points hat on, you say, listen, got a good race car, get the tires now, get a top 10, be happy with it, get a good points night. It's definitely bigger a gamble because if we don't get a yellow, they're going to be way at the back of the lead lap. But they want to go for the win, and right now your top 6 cars having stayed out means that Freenage first off of pit road. Second off of pit road, in fact, going to be 8th because John Ellenberg is, in fact, the first driver off of pit road. The 13 machine, 2 tires only. I think that's the only 2-tire stop we've seen tonight.
Yeah, no one's made that gamble yet. It's going to be interesting to see how the tires really cope. Usually the right sides are the ones that get abused here at Richmond most often, but those left sides, especially down into this corner like 1, can get a little rusty. So it's gonna be a handful, I think, for that 13 machine, but nothing that's not doable. Yeah, but you mentioned like going for the win. Well, the 88 won the championship by winning all the time. So easiest thing to do is to stop the 88 of Andrew Freenage. Well, don't let him win. You know, you see that last season, you go, huh? Well, that seems to be the strategy. He's got to stop the 88 car.
Oh, good strategy. Let me just do that by the end of this race.
Yeah, just knock out some wins, Dylan. It's that easy.
Oh, yeah. Just knock out 11 laps down. I got time.
Yeah. I can say that, you know, you talk about all-time RSR competition stats, and you look at the all-time wins list. Andrew Freenage with 42 is by far and large the all-time wins champion. That's a win percentage of 27% all-time, a top 10 percentage of 83% all-time. Both of those are RSR bests for drivers who have competed in the Cup Series. I have a 100% top 10% in RSR history, but that is not racing in this. It's racing in IWRAPS.
Were there only 10 cars?
So to be fair, there's like 16, 17 cars. So that's good, but not the same stats. So Freenage leads that statistical category. So let's see how the no tires work for the top 5, how the 2 tires work for Ellenberg, and how the 4 tires work for Andrew Freenage. On back, 27 laps to go, green flag, and look at Ellenberg getting checked up from behind. 3 wide now, 4 wide to the inside as Everhart tries to go through.
43 all alone. They were 5 wide. Okay. Let's just go. Oh, no. There was the 05.
There's a spin and a caution. The 05 of Matt Danson. One of the top cars running in 3rd position for most of this night. Count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide in turn number 4. Or in turn 2, I should say. They survived the corner. And I think the 48 machine from behind of Jared Weinmaster came across the nose of the 03 machine, Mariusz Lashinsky. That is what hooked him around, but they did it for a moment.
Yeah, but technically, you can do anything for a moment.
Still counts.
Hey, we went 4 wide at the 23 Hours of Zolder last weekend, and they all made it somehow. And I was amazed for about an hour. Like, I was speechless for an hour.
You were speechless for an hour.
I couldn't get over it for an hour. It was one of those moments.
Oh, you just couldn't get over it, so you did speak.
Well, Dylan, I always have things to say. One thing I'm going to say here is that 43 on old tires was definitely the cork in that bottle. And ooh, what a stellar!
That was some nice driving by Matt Morrow. We just saw a nice onboard of.
Did I just see Steve Durham just fly by us?
I don't know what Steve is. I don't know what Steve's doing. I can never tell you. To be fair, he's getting there. I think he's getting the wave by.
Wait,
wave around. 3 laps down to 2 laps down.
I'm gonna steal this from Liam Sheed. If there's David Washington, is there David Montana? Is there David? Why?
When are we going to mute his mic?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what 174 laps behind the wheel at the virtual Richmond Raceway will do.
There were some boos over the comms here for that joke. And in fairness, it was pretty bad. Gary Weaver saying, explode your engine again, Liam. We're all friendly here.
Liam Sheed is, by the way, still in pit road with no engine, so he's just shouting sweet nothings over the team radio, I think, as he tries to get his car fixed and maybe back into the race after he lost that engine some time ago. One important thing I should mention about the race, that is, right before the yellow came out, we saw the 5 wide. Daniel Eberhardt actually passed Andrew Farinaj, and Farinaj crossed him over, went to pass him back, but the yellow came out. So for the moment, Eberhardt is the driver leading the charge on 4 tires. However, he will be on the outside of row 3. Farinaj will be on the inside of row 4 in 7th position. I wonder which lane will be better, because those 2 cars are pretty even. Eberhardt, I think, knows, though, Jonathan, that he needs to basically beat the 88 on this restart no matter how it takes place. He needs to get to the front first if he wants to beat him. Farinaj has been pretty untouchable when he gets out front.
Yeah, it's also going to matter like what lane they're going to be in and where the positioning is going to be. We saw the 44 take that outside, and I think he's going to do it again. I'm assuming he's going to do it again. And got a really good restart, but if Eberhardt's stuck on the inside, that might be a problem for him. If Farinaj has the outside, we'll see what the momentum goes. It really depends on how everyone else restarts.
Oh, and speaking of which, single file restart, because we didn't get a full lap. So it'll be a single file restart. That helps Daniel Eberhardt, I would think, atop Farinaj because of the positioning. There isn't going to be an inside and out. It'll be a single file restart. New rule for 2021 in the Winter Series. Single file restarts if you don't make it a lap after the previous one. So pace car down. This time, 21 laps to go. The magic number. Green flag for Michael Araya. What happens, though, in traffic? Here's Eberhardt to the inside on Ellenberg. He'll make that move. Farinaj trying to follow.
13 getting a little bit loose. He's trying to hang on as much as he can. Now just the 12 and the 20 in the way before they can get after Neto and Farinaj. Not Farinaj. Farinaj is the 88 car, excuse me.
And Cato gets out of the way, so Eberhardt kind of bullies his way through side by side behind. Here comes Nick Silver.
Crashing front
there
stretch.
It is. Caution just as those two get to 3. And it is the Sheets car. Soa is in the grass, but he was not the only car I saw down there. There was at least one more involved. And I think it was the 70. Oh, I saw the 75 and the 8, maybe. There's Kamer in the grass, but then maybe the 43 also?
That was a lot right in front.
There's a lot to this incident. There's a lot to unpack here.
Well, let's watch the 8 and the 75 first. Kamer gets loose. He spins, takes out Soa, and then I saw the 43 spinning on his own behind. Soa takes out his teammate at Subpar Racing, Mosier, who gets a piece of the incident. You always hate when team cars get together. Here's the second look. Hard hit into the outside wall. An avoidance for Chambliss. Mosier gets a tag. And somewhere to the left in turn 4, I guess Kalis was around as well.
Like he just saw the smoke and just took evasive action to the grass. Said that's my best option. But yeah, that's I've never heard Dylan so happy, by the way, to see a crash in front of him.
I was pretty happy last week.
He takes the Wawa and Sheets battle very seriously.
Yes, yes. If you disparage the name of Wawa, we have an issue. And a lot of drivers on here, in this, have given me an issue as well. And you know what? Maybe they've made rivals of me. I'm not good enough to have rivals, to be honest.
I mean, as a person from the Midwest, I still am a little lost on the whole debate a little bit. I'll be frank.
You're kidding me. You've been here for 2
Wawa is still delicious. I will admit that on air.
I haven't had enough of a sampling of either to make a affirmative decision.
Is IWRAPS calling me out again? But, like, upset?
Oh,
they're upset on the stream.
Well, your bounty is not going very well. No. IWRAPS, our beautiful partner for this series, is trying to hook a viewer up with a 1-month iRacing subscription, I believe. And all that has to happen is Dylan R. Coyle needs to get a top 10 finish. That's it. And somebody gets a free month of iRacing.
So I warned, I warned IWRAPS that this race was not going to be a top 10 looking race. Michigan looks a little better. I like more of the pack racing draft-filled races where there's still horsepower, but at the same time, I'm not great with short tracks. I might be okay at Lucas Oil later in the season. I think it's just Richmond. Richmond is a kryptonite for me.
A tough track. Daniel Eberhardt was saying over the radio as these drivers chat under the yellow here that he was actually thinking there's probably going to be more yellows than what we've had. I mentioned 8 in the Daytona season opener. That last caution to flag was caution number 11 on the night. Honestly, not awful. The RSR record was set in the Cup Series this past year at Martinsville with more than 20 yellows, where more than 50% of the race was run under yellow. That was a race, to say the least. So lights on the pace car should be going out this time. We'll try it again with 14 laps to go. And, you know, Lariah hasn't had his chance here, Jonathan, to get the tires, right? All those cars who stayed out, if we had ran 15 laps straight, got a yellow now, take them. But Ferdinand and those guys who took tires haven't really used up a lot of them. So he is just trying to outlast this thing, but Eberhardt's up to 3rd. Ferdinand is up to 4th. We did go more than 1 lap from the last restart, so we go back to a 2-wide restart. It's going to be a fun battle for the race lead, but I think it's just a question of who gets there first, the 88 or the 90. I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew goes high, Daniel goes low, and we're 4 wide.
Question. Are we going Wawa Sheets battle based on points or 1-0?
It is 1 point per race position.
Oh, okay, cool.
Pace car off. Here we go. The 44 in control, and it is such a good restart for the outside. So Daniel Eberhardt going to pull alongside Sam Nieto. It's Ferdinand there up top. In fact, though, as the 90 can't get to the inside. So Andrew Ferdinand trying to go to P2. Eberhardt is blocked out. And here comes the 88 car looking for the race lead. The 90 is still stuck in traffic.
Crashing again.
Oh, big crash.
That is a lot of smoke, and that is a lot of race cars. The 30 is at least one of them. That's Michael Kaczynski. Rewind it and take a second look. I think it happened further up the road. Watch the 3 car. It was the 46 who got loose and got into him. But I wonder if that 46 Machida Dane Cruz got tagged from behind and pushed into that. I think he did.
It's a friendly little help from the 09. Just nothing big. The 13 in the wall as well. And then they were still spinning on the front stretch as well.
At least if they're going to wreck, they get their money's worth for it.
At least this is also virtual, and we don't have to give them the actual bill for the bananas cars to these race cars. No actual race cars were harmed in the filming of this race, by the way. Just want to point that out.
It's all virtual bent sheet metal, but the hurt feelings are not virtual sometimes. And
I still have a little hurt feelings from that, if I'm honest. Like, I was a little upset that we didn't get to make a lap.
So we'll go back to single file. This race will now go into the final 10 laps. And, you know, man, Michael Lariah, if this race was only 10 laps shorter, he may be able to hold out Ferdinand for a green-white checkered, because these yellows have been eliminating green flag laps for those cars on fresh tires to pass him. I think he's going to be just a little bit shy of that mark, but what an awful restart for Eberhardt, right? I thought that we saw the outside get a good jump. Immediately, Ferdinand went to the top, and I thought that Eberhardt was going to go to the bottom, make it 3 wide, and whoever won that was going to win the race, right? The race up to the front. But Eberhardt just didn't have a lot of burst, and he still scored 4th. Basically handing this thing off to the 88 car on that last restart alone.
I don't know if it was just a poor job by the 90 car of Eberhardt, but just a brilliant job by Sam Nieto to try and hold them up as much as they could, because he was still fighting that 88 down into 1 and 2. Like, just because they're on old tires does not mean the fire of the driver is extinguished. If anything, I think the 44 and the 2 have probably been driving at their absolute best so far. Under these circumstances, they have a handful of laps just to fend off these guys on fresher tires that have been leading the whole way. It's definitely been a tight one for them for sure. And, you know, maybe if this goes green all the way, they can salvage this with a couple top 10s. But if this keeps happening with the cautions and stuff, maybe they'll get lucky and still have a chance to fight for the win.
Restart should come with 8 laps to go in this race. There's your onboard look with Kyle Kamer, who's had a little bit of a rough up and down night. Runs 23rd right now, though, so plus 14 from where he started. I think the speed in that car is well above 23rd position, but doing what he can to salvage this one and try to finish in the top half of the field. But light should go out this next time. Should get a restart with 8 laps to go. If the last couple attempts were any indication, still a few restarts in our bag, so I'll mention 3 green-white checkers available if necessary. Got a feeling we'll use at least one. We'll see.
And also mention the tire situation. We still can pit for tires if necessary. I don't know how many each person has left. We know the 44 and the 2 do have fresh sets left. But it's just going to be about the risk of coming down pit road and taking them.
And you'll lose so many spots, right? Because there was only about a half a dozen of them that stayed out. I think that's what they were hoping for. That's what I would have done. But the very, very short runs maybe has made the bed for Lariah and company. Pace car off it in. 8 laps to go from Richmond for Michael Lariah. Can he hold on?
There comes the 90 down into turn 2, able to clear as the whole field single file. A little less chaotic than double file, so hopefully no immediate incidents.
So far, so good. You see a group of 2 wide there around 15th. So cars in the middle of the pack going to try to mix it up. But up front, Farinaj is on the bumper. Lariah doing everything he possibly can. If Lariah holds up the 8-8 at all, Daniel Eberhardt third, not that far back. But here he looks to the inside. Lap 194. Andrew Farinaj through on the bottom to the lead at 6 laps to go.
Oh, he's coming back at him, though. He's got to have a bit of a run here, but he's got Eberhardt for company on the bottom. I don't think that 44 can really hold that outside and be racing for long. And here comes Nick Silver. Again, very quietly, he's put together a magnificent drive and maybe on place for a top 3 finish here.
And now the roles reverse, right? Maybe Eberhardt wants a yellow, an opportunity to restart and come back. There's the challenge as the 24 of Silver goes to the bottom of Sam Nieto. That is once again fresher tires versus older tires. But Nieto in that beautiful winter-themed holiday number 2 Miller Lite Ford is hanging on the 20-lap older tires, making Silver work for this.
Last time I saw a 2 and a 24 with those style of numbers fighting hard normally does not end well.
Did not end well in a night race, no.
No, but Nieto has to give up the position. Again, Nick Silver started towards the rear of the field, was in a lot of that commotion in the midfield, avoided it. Just what a beautiful race he's put together, and an equally beautiful car, I must say.
Oh, and there's a spin in the back. The 23 of Matt Mara got sideways.
Oh.
Thomas George involved in the 9. No caution. We stay green. After David Washington took a swipe at Mara, we stay green. Coming to 2 laps to go.
Now, if the 90 gets close, do you think he's doing it?
I think he's too far. I think if it was within a car length, he would move him. I don't think Daniel would dump him. And at this distance, it would take a huge send just to get there. White flag this time by. They get there. It's official. And no traffic out the road. The difference, 0.3 of a second. Farinaj to Daniel Eberhardt. It was a mediocre start to the 2021 campaign. Came back for a top 10 in the opener at Daytona. The hard drive going to come up short. His first win of the year. Andrew Farinaj, Winter Series win at Richmond. The congratulations come in over the radio. Eberhardt second, Lariah in third. We'll talk with those drivers later, and some extracurriculars after the race amongst some cars, and even coming to the end as the fireworks, both on and off the track.
It's just a Richmond staple, and now the burning down the house for Freenage. A well-deserved burnout as well. The split tire strategies and pit strategies. You know, he was the dominant car. He didn't have to deal with a lot of traffic, but having to come back through the field and fight for every little position, it's a well-deserved win, and a well-deserved for everyone in that top 10. The different strategies that everyone was on, it made it difficult, especially in that middle part of the race.
Can't always be said, but tonight, the best car with the race win at Richmond. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll take a look at your full race results powered by IWRAPS and talk with your top finishers. Andrew Freenage, race winner in the IWRAPS 200. You're watching the RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series on RaceSpotTV.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was always fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos or danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all will be kept in the pits. Not to mention that with members in over 130 countries already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series and work your way up to one of 7 world championships, offering over $500,000 in prize money. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
And back live at the virtual Richmond Raceway, where coverage of tonight's RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series IWRAPS 200 is brought to you by IWRAPS. IWRAPS is changing how you find virtual wraps for iRacing. Visit IWRAPS.shop and enter code RSRWinter20 to receive 20% off your first order. Through the website, you can select a pre-designed paint scheme to purchase and customize by changing the colors, sponsors, and more. That's code RSRWinter20 at IWRAPS.shop for more information. And welcome you back live into the RaceSpotTV booth with Hugo Luis, our in-race reporter Dylan Coyle, Jonathan Burke, and myself, Evan Pasoko, as we take a look at tonight's full race results from Richmond. Freenage, your winner, atop Eberhardt and Lariah. We'll try to chat with all of them in just a moment here with Nick Silver, Jeremy Miller, top fives, Sam Nieto, Stephen DeBoge, Ross Cato, Joe Berge, and Dane Cruz, your top 10.
Dominic Howe, John Ellenberg had, good up and down days right there, finishing 11 and 12, good points day at least. Ruiz Luxowski in the 03, quiet day. David Washington had many ups and downs of spin as well, 14th. Jason Weimeister in the 48, Brandon Key in the 20. Dainson had that accident on the back straightaway, Angel Phillip in the 94. Matthew Moore, it was not a good day for the Mara Motorsports crew, 23rd, and then Gary Weaver comes home in 20th.
You got Eric Stanford 21st with Kyle Kamer 22nd, Braxton DeWeese 23rd, Nick Barra 24th, and Sean Kalist in P25. Thomas George 26th, Steve Durham 27th, Steve Soa 28th, Michael Kaczynski 29th, and Kyle Trudell in 30th.
Brian Clambless in the 25 finishes 31st. Dylan R. Coyle had a few incidents, obviously. Finishes 32nd. Michael Moser in 33rd. Liam Sheen up after a big blow-up of his engine. 34 for the number 34. Joseph Tice in 35th. Shane Parrish, big collision. 36th. Anthony Fredericks in the 04. Taryn Verona, Garrett Heiss, and Stephen Price rounding out the 40.
And at the very back of the field, Devin Winfield disconnected early. That'll be a look top to bottom at your IWRAPS full race results. Welcome you back into the booth, and we'll make our top finishers wait for just one more moment because I believe our in-race reporter Dylan Coyle's got to get out of here, Dylan. So I'll let you give us a recap of what you saw from behind the wheel and preview what we should see at Michigan next week so you can get to it.
Yeah, you know, still in school. Jonathan knows all about that, being both of us are from Temple University, so have some work to do. But in terms of how this race was for me, obviously 32nd is not where I wanted to end up. I am happy, though, that after the first, 50 or so laps, I had some clean racing. I, for the most part, got out of the way of the faster cars on lead laps coming for me. And I did finish 32nd, and I'm not sure if there's going to be any disqualifications that come from drivers using a fast repair. But you know what? If it does, if I get a top 30, I'm thrilled. Started the race in 27th. I do feel like I could have got a top 20 from it if I was keeping things clean, if I had some more practice time beforehand. I didn't. That's okay. But Michigan is going to be a bit of a different track, just a bit. We're going from this 3/4 mile to the 2-mile D-shaped oval, and I'm a lot more comfortable with Michigan. It's so wide. There's so many routes you can take. There's so many grooves in the corners. And I do feel like, at least for myself, when it comes to getting behind some cars, you almost get a little bit of pack racing. Obviously, the Cup Series would have more pack racing at Michigan. Xfinity is going to be lower on power than, if we were talking about the 750 horsepower Cup Series cars, which do not race there. But it's still underpowered compared to those. The Xfinity car is. So we're going to see some semblance of pack racing, and we're going to see pit stops and incidents are going to make it so a lot fewer drivers are laps down. If they're laps down, it's because they were in a huge incident. You look at each lap around the track under pace car, under yellow, will be what? A minute 25, something like that. So we're not going to see too many cars off of the lead lap. And if it's anything like a mixture of Daytona and Richmond, I think we're going to see some great racing, close action, maybe not as temper-filled as Richmond, but a lot more. And I know I talk so much more than a typical commentator, so I'm going to put it back to you, Evan.
We'll make sure we bug you a lot at Michigan. We'll use you up for those
Please do.
Long pace laps. But we'll let you get to it, and we'll catch you on Wednesday as well for the Throwback Series. Big thanks for letting us kind of bug you all night. And let's bring in now our race winner tonight from the virtual Richmond Raceway. It is his first win of the 2021 season for the driver of the number 88 machine, Andrew Ferdinand. Of course, we talked about how he had struggles early in the Daytona race, right? At one point was way down in 30th position or so, had to work his way back through the field to get himself into a position to get a decent finish. He's a race winner tonight after being the best car in the field. We're chatting with him now. Andrew, congratulations on the race win in tonight's IWRAPS 200. Another night in which you had the best car, but it didn't mean that you went without challenges.
Yeah, man, this feels really good after last week doing what we dealt with. A good points night. We're extremely happy with that. Happy to drive a car that you have to use a brake at all the tracks. So I'm just all smiles over here. Really excited. Really happy to get this one.
Talk us through this one up front early. It looked like on that first run, about a second and change over Daniel. Then it became a second. Then it became half a second, to the point where on a lot of these late race restarts, it was trading blows, even including late in this race where he was ahead of you at points.
Yeah, Michael picked that outside lane. I don't know why, but if he didn't do that, I think Daniel would have easily had won this race. So, we were out front. We were just trying to save our tires. We got a few long runs there, and we were really able to pull away. But Daniel had that thing figured out in the short run. I don't know how he was driving it in so hard and whatnot, but once we got the 20 laps, I felt like I could start pulling away a little bit. So it was definitely balancing track position with saving tires.
We talk about the difference between the Cup cars and these cars. We talked about it a lot over the course of these last couple of years with you. to kind of overcome the struggles that you had early in Daytona, to get a good finish there, to get the win here. And with a lot of new faces, how do you assess maybe how this winter series is going to go for you as we get set to head to Michigan next week?
Yeah, it's a good start, but you got to keep it up. It's 10 weeks. It's points every week. They accumulate, so it's nothing like the full throttle. You got to have 3 good races reset. So this is kind of more my style. I like to just, methodically get points. Struggle at Michigan, to be honest. Probably not one of my better tracks, so not really looking forward to that one. But, just keep never quit. When we do get in wrecks, you try to get as much as you could, and that's what we did last week. And when you have a good car, you got to put it together. Even if we got second, we still had the most lap sled, so it would have been a good point stay no matter where we finished there in the top 3.
Max points for the driver of the 88 machine. Andrew, thanks for racing with us. Congratulations on the win. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, Evan. Have a good week, guys.
The winner of the IWRAPS 200 will continue on down the line. I'll hand things back over to Jonathan Burke, beginning with our P2 finisher in this race, Daniel Eberhardt.
Daniel, you were so close. You were at the back bumper of the 88 all night. Just talk us through your night. How do you feel after these 200 long laps?
It's Richmond. I was really surprised we had as many green flag runs as we did, but it was a good race all around. I mean, I was pretty happy with the guys that were, we were all kind of competitive. Andrew was just class of the field. I just don't get it. I beat myself up about it every week, and it just comes down to me saving tires. I don't know what I do. I don't know. I don't get it. But I tried moving him a couple times. I was just hitting him at the wrong spot of the corner, but I did give a bumper to him. It just wasn't for lack of trying, but at the end, I was just, it wasn't meant to be because he could just drive away. I was driving way over my head trying to get up to him, but he was always quicker for about the first 10 laps, and finally it was like he fell off a little bit for, after 10 laps, and I'd get back up to him. I just didn't have enough time.
He actually did say you were the better car of the two of you on the short run. He was actually a little scared on these runs that weren't long enough that he was not going to be able to hold you off. But it's probably a little annoying at least to sit in that second position a lot. But you got ahead of him at the end a little bit, but just couldn't get by the 2 car. Talk us through those last few restarts.
Well, the single file didn't bother me. It kind of helped me when, we had that one single file restart, but man, I don't know what Mike was thinking. I asked him, I said, "What were you thinking, dude?" I mean, and he's like, him and Sam had a little deal going on where they were like, "I'll take the top and give it to you," but it's like at that time and at that point, you're racing to win. You don't. That's my number one problem with everything is after a certain point in the race, teammates, anything, all that's out the window. You got to do for yourself, and I think that's where a lot of people fall short and ruin their own races. They worry too much about each other, not about themselves. And racing is a selfish sport. So, but all in all, it was a great day. SK Sim Racing on top of the hood. I couldn't ask for anything better than a second place coming out here after Daytona.
And how are you looking forward to next week at Michigan?
Well, Michigan's tricky. This car is it's way different than the Cup car. Now in the new package in the Cup car, you're flat-footing it. In this car, you're kind of all over the place. It's a little bit more of a driver's car. You drive it a lot harder, and you have to save your stuff. It actually takes a little bit more skill and talent, unlike the Cup car nowadays. But, we'll see when we get there. I feel like it's going to be just a bunch of single-file racing.
Well, maybe we'll show up in a week and maybe we'll be surprised and maybe you'll be the class of the field. Thanks for talking with us, Daniel. The SK Sim Racing number 90 finished second tonight, and it was nice to see you up there fighting it all night long.
Thanks, Jonathan.
All right. Again, that was your second place driver, Daniel Eberhardt. Our third place driver, Michael Lara, in the 44, had a split strategy almost all night, able to come home third. Michael, how did you take that split strategy approach, and how scary was it being out on those older tires with guys on fresh ones?
I knew I really didn't have a shot at holding off Andrew or Daniel there, but I felt like I could at least get a solid finish out of it, and I did. I think a key was me being able to be the control car on the restarts. I was able to get enough of a jump to kind of create a gap within the top 5, and it worked out good. But yeah, it was just trying something different. I think in hindsight, I probably pitted too early to get put on my last set of tires there. I think in the future I'm gonna try to wait until maybe 30 to go before I pull that strategy, unless we're at a track where it makes more sense. But it was definitely worth the shot.
Yeah, you were able to move through the field very, very quickly, and like talk us through that. Like that midfield got very, very racy. There's a lot of bumping and running. You heard at the end of the comms, there's a little bit of yelling and screaming, a little bit of unkind words said to each other. Like how did you manage to get through that pretty much unscathed?
Oh, that was wild. Luckily, I had my teammate Sam Nieto right with me, and we were just in constant communication. I was telling Sam, look, we got to take it easy getting into the entry of these corners because these guys ahead of us, they don't have the tires, and we just got to beat them on corner exit. So that was kind of my approach, just picking them off one at a time, and then where it made sense, I would jump to the outside, and those guys couldn't do anything on the older tires. You could just pinch them down there and get a nice launch on corner exit. So just kind of playing the lanes and anticipating when there was going to be a checkup, because there was definitely a few, and really just being methodical about it.
And now we move next week to a track with a very similar shape, but a much longer track at Michigan. What are your hopes for next week, and will we see the 44 back up front again?
Well, to be honest, and this might be a little surprising, I just want to finish a Michigan race. I've had the worst luck there in all the leagues I've run. Nothing on my doing, nothing about lack of speed, just getting caught in somebody else's mess. So to me, a victory is just going to be able to finish one of those races. But if I come in the top 10, I'll be extremely happy there. So that's my goal.
All right, well, maybe you'll get to pull out another alternate strategy and get yourself a nice top 5. We appreciate you, Michael. Congrats on the 3rd place finish, and have a great one.
All right, thank you guys.
That was your 3rd place finisher of Flat Out Motorsports, number 44, Michael Liara. It was definitely an interesting, fun race at the front with those split strategies, but again, Michael was probably right. He took those tires too early and really cost him at the end. He could not hold off any fresher tires.
And I think if he looks back on it, right, if he stays on the same strategy as Andrew Frenage, does he really finish any better than 3rd? Probably not, right? I mean, Frenage and Eberhardt were kind of the class of the field tonight, so I think P3 is a good finish for him. I don't think he loses anything from being on that end of the strategy. So big thanks to our top 3 for letting us chat with them. Let's take a look at your unofficial points coming out of this race and talk about that a little bit. Of course, we mentioned Frenage with a slow start, but your new points leader plus 7 positions takes it away from Dominic Howe, who won the season opener. Talked almost not at all this evening about Dominic, who came home to a quiet P11 finish. So Frenage, the points leader, no change. Cato and Berge, who will finish 3rd, 4th, and stay there in the points. Danson dropping, though, out of the number 2 spot. He falls to 5th in the championship standings. Only 2 weeks in, somebody like a Daniel Eberhardt, very surprising, Jonathan, to be 30 points back from Frenage. Yes, it's a different car, but those are still probably the 2 best drivers in this series. Like Michael Araya, 22 points back.
Yeah,
it's
and
a lot to make up on Andrew, right? I mean, he can win a race, but if Andrew finishes 2nd all the time, right, it's going to be hard to make up that gap. So they're going to have to hope that they get rid of some of the bad luck maybe that they had in that Daytona opener, and they're going to have to hope that Frenage has some more bad luck, because you never want to give him a lead. That was true tonight on track. I think that's true in the points also.
Yeah, and I think for Daniel, I think that's where that frustration comes in of not getting that win, of not getting in front of Andrew, because he knew, like, Andrew had he had a rough time at Daytona, but he came home well. And you also see, like, how well a good run at Daytona is. Dominic Howe, we did mention him a couple times. He was into a few other cars, and I think you said over the radio there was someone saying some not nice words about him as well. But he quietly comes home 11th, and with that win, he's still 2nd in the points. So I think those restrictor plate tracks as well, we have another one. We do have Talladega coming up later in the season. those are still going to be key for points-wise. And I think just trying to, like, methodically get your points. You know, Freenage talked about it. Like, this is the thing he loves to do. He loves points racing like this and being like a Scott Dixon, just maximizing as many points as you can get.
And the difference between a win and second is 5 points, but it's really a 10-point swing, right? If Freenage doesn't win the race, he's probably 3 points behind Dominic Howe. Give Daniel Eberhardt those 5 additional points. He's only 25 back, right? So instead of him being 30 points behind Andrew, he's only 20, right? So just because it's 5, if it's those 2, it's actually a 10-point swing. So those 1-2 finishes tonight and through the rest of the season, I think, could be really big. But, you know, we're going to Michigan next week. Very different than what we saw in the Full Throttle Cup Series this past season, powered by Boosted in these Xfinity Series cars. It's next Monday, and I think that should be a real good show. Very different than the first 2 weeks we've seen.
I think that's what I like about this schedule. There's not a lot of very, very similar tracks besides maybe Daytona and Talladega. You can group, obviously, restrictor plate tracks, and then Richmond and Iowa you can kind of group together. But even then, those are very different animals almost. Iowa a lot wider, a lot more passing. So as we get views right here of where we're off to next week in great old Michigan Motor Speedway. It should be fun, should be interesting, and these big 2-mile tracks like Michigan and Auto Club in the Xfinity cars, I love racing at these places. It is a driver's track, as they were mentioning. It's more about managing how you're going through the corner, managing where you're picking up the draft, and just managing like the car as well as your own pace.
The fun track, I think, in any car is certainly fun in these Xfinity Series cars, and we hope you join us next time out from MIS. But until next time, on behalf of our entire team here at RaceSpotTV, the team over at RealSimRacing, for our producer tonight, Hugo Luis, for Dylan Coyle for being our in-race reporter, and of course, for the guys upstairs tonight, Jonathan Burke and myself, Evan Pasoko. I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Andrew Freenage, winner tonight at Richmond, and your new points leader through 2 weeks of 10. We are back next Monday. That's December the 7th for a 9 o'clock start from the virtual Michigan International Raceway. That race and every race of the 2021 Real Sim Racing IWRAPS Winter Series can be found exclusively here on RaceSpot TV. Until next time, good night from Richmond.